All right, it's time for the third annual Classic Gaming Quarterly Christmas Special. Much like last year, we just have a huge show in store for you guys this year. Although this year it'll be a little bit more of a variety show. We are going to start off doing, kind of what we did last year. I've got a few packages people sent in to open, as well as a couple of things that I actually bought myself that I wanted to open, as part of the show so that I can share it with you guys. Then we're actually going to go down to the basement because I have a new Christmas game to play, a Sega Genesis homebrew, I guess, or independently developed Christmas game that I have not played at all yet, but I'm very excited. I've had it for like a week and I haven't played it. And then probably the best part of the show, or the most exciting for me part of the show, is a couple people suggested that this year I could take a look at some old catalogs or flyers from Christmases past, and I was able to get a couple of just Radio Shack toy flyers, Christmas toy flyers, but sort of the star of the show is going to be, and I should have had it up here to show you, but it doesn't matter. I got the 1989 Sears Christmas Wishbook. And I mean, that thing, it's like a phone book almost. I've already gone through it and like tagged the pages that we'll probably want to check out. But even then, that's probably going to take up the lion's share of the show today, just because there's so much stuff to look at. You see, once again, we have a roaring fire. And next to that, this year, for I believe the first time, we have a tree. Hopefully the fake tree is not too close to the fake fireplace, or we could end up with a fake house fire. Just a couple things before we get started. First, on a lighter note, I did try to find a Christmas sweater to wear this year. I didn't want to wear the same one again that I wore 2 years ago. Of course, last year I didn't wear one. I couldn't find like a specific Christmas sweater that I wanted to wear. So I bought like another sweater that I thought was cool, and then I tried wearing it on camera, and let's just say that it's unflattering. So we're just going with a red shirt, because how is that not Christmassy? The second thing, normally I don't make any kind of commentary on current events on my show, and I don't mean to do it again today, except to say that really for mostly self-serving reasons, if I'm being very honest. I feel like this year more than normal, there are a lot of people out there who are not going to have a very Merry Christmas for reasons that we don't need to really get into on the show. And so to a certain extent, it feels almost obscene, or at least a little bit offensive, for me to be opening things on the show that people have sent me, when, again, there are so many people that are going without this year. And so I'm not saying this because I'm trying to make myself seem like a good guy. It really has a lot to do with me just sort of assuaging my own guilt. But I went ahead and made a pretty decent donation to both my local food bank and to Toys for Tots, because I feel like, one is trying to make an entire family's Christmas a little bit better, and the other one is trying to make underprivileged kids' Christmas a little bit better. And the reason that I'm saying that on camera is just anybody out there, if you're watching this, if you're like me and you've been lucky enough that 2020 has not really had any major negative effects on you, and maybe you find yourself with even just an extra $5 to spare, please consider donating it to just any local charity that you like. It's not too late for that to make a difference and make somebody's Christmas just a little bit better. So that's all I'm going to say about that off of my soapbox, and we'll start getting to it. So I had kind of mixed feelings about the order I wanted to open this stuff in, because I really kind of wanted to open at least one of the things that I got for myself first, but at the same time that just seems kind of rude. So I'm not going to do that. So I've got 3 packages here from viewers. One of them I know what's in the package because he emailed me and told me to expect it. So I'm just going to go ahead and open that one first. So and I did go ahead and, I know you can't see the presents in the frame here. I did go ahead and wrap everything just to make it cooler. So this one is from Jason in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And so I feel like he must have already said something, or sent something rather, and I think I already said on my show that on a previous show that, you know, I talked about my best friend Sean when I was in like 3rd, 4th grade, and that he moved away and moved to Cedar Rapids, Iowa. So whenever I see Cedar Rapids, Iowa, it just makes me think of Sean. So apologies for the noise as I rip this open. And like I said, I know what's in here. And I've talked about this on, I think on the first Christmas special, I talked about this. And the fact that this is sort of what I would consider to be an integral part of Christmas for me, but it's something that I have a hard time finding. And sure enough, this Christmas, I once again could not find it in my local grocery stores. And I'm sure by now most people know what I'm talking about, and that is 2 boxes of Captain Crunch Christmas Crunch. So, you know, I can't thank you enough, Jason. I know that you know, because I can see the postage on the box. You paid far more in postage for this than the cereal itself cost. So, you know, I'm sorry that's the case. But like I said, I couldn't find this again this year. So, you know, even though it's just breakfast cereal, you know, it means a lot that I was able to get this. So thank you very much. I don't know if they've been changing the box art anymore. I feel like at some point they just quit changing it. But to be quite honest, I mean, it's pretty good box art, so why change it? I like the little details, like the Christmas tree strapped to the top of the logo or whatever, like on top of a car. And, you know, now, I don't know what year they did this, but they sort of changed it so that instead of just being round berries, crunch berries, now it's like holiday shapes, like a Santa hat, snowman, Christmas tree, star. I don't know if there's something else in there. And then there's like a little game on the back. But, you know, I've said before that I always wait until my Christmas vacation starts before I start eating Christmas Crunch when I'm lucky enough to find it. And I actually had to work on Saturday. Today's Monday, but I'm recording this on Monday. I had to work on Saturday, so yesterday was the first day of my vacation. So I'm only 1 day late. So just once again, Jason, thank you very much. So next we will open. So I don't know exactly what's in this package, except that it came from Canada. So it does have like a customs form on the front. So I know sort of the category of the stuff. This is from Michael in Ottawa, Ontario. Michael sent quite a few things to the show. I think most recently is when he sent the MC Escher book and the Lego sort of filmmakers book. So just once again, thank you again for another package, Mike. Again, sorry for the noise. And not to make anyone nervous, Michael, but it kind of feels like there's some crumbs or something rattling around in there. So hopefully something didn't break. We have a card. Wow, all right, I mean, you guys aren't going to be able to see that, I guess. I can't, I don't have the camera on autofocus. I think that's Salvador Dali, if I'm not mistaken. And so Michael says, thank you again for everything you do. The videos, the Discord, the enthusiasm. Here are some Canadian treats and Canadian music CDs I thought you would enjoy. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, Michael's Workshop. So thank you very much, Michael. And, you know, while I appreciate you thanking me for everything that I do, it really isn't lip service when I say that I wouldn't do that stuff if it wasn't for all of you guys. So the feeling is mutual. Here we got some, we don't need that. All right, we got jalapeno. Oh, this is what was rattling around in there, so it's not loose in the box. Oh no, something's definitely loose in the box. So we'll be careful not to make a mess. We got some jalapeno flavored crinkle cut or ridge cut potato chips. Oh, jalapeno and cheese, sorry. I saw fromage. And then I think Oh man, yeah, okay. So sorry, Mike. These are like Canadian Cheez-Its, I guess. Hawkins Cheesies. But unfortunately, one of the boxes, or one of the bags rather, is ruptured. So there's some loose Cheez-Its flying around in the box here. So I'm going to try to be careful about taking these CDs out. All right, we got the Tragically Hip, fully, what does that say? Fully Completely. So I've never heard of the Tragically Hip. Oh, another Tragically Hip, Day for Night. I don't even know what kind of music this is, but you know, I have down in my basement, I have a little, nothing that cool, but I have a little stereo setup down there, just for listening to music while I'm working on the show or working from home for my day job. So it'll be fun to listen to these. And then I've heard this name before, Matthew Good, but I don't know any of his music. So I've got two. I've got Avalanche and Beautiful Midnight CDs. So that'll be cool to check out. Like I said, I have no idea if I will like it or not, but you know, I have pretty eclectic tastes in music, so I will be very curious to check both of those artists out and see what I think. And then, sorry, I got the Cheez-It or Cheeto stuff to worry about here. So I'm gonna put this back in the box because I'm gonna have to take this out inside and clean it, but it'll be fine. Forbidden Lego. Build the models your parents warned you against. And you can see the first thing on here is like a gun that it looks like it shoots Lego pieces. So, I mean, that's kind of cool. I mean, I don't know. I feel like modern sensibilities are such that parents would look at this and, like, you know, be clutching the pearls. But I mean, when we were kids, you know, having guns that actually shot, you know, toy guns that shot things was like no big deal, you know. So, oh, paper plane launcher, that's pretty cool. And candy coated catapult. So anyway, I don't want to flip through this because I don't want to get Cheeto dust all over everything. But like I said, don't worry about it. I'm going to get this all cleaned up and it'll be no big deal. So thank you very much, Michael. I'm curious, you know, I do love Cheetos, so I'm be curious to see how those taste. So, okay. So the last package that we got from, not a viewer, but viewers. This package comes from Ruben and Kylie in, I believe it's Redondo Beach, California. It's not on there, sorry. They sent a package last Christmas, so thank you for sending another one. I don't know if it's on purpose that the ribbon, or whatever you want to call it, looks kind of like 49ers colors, but it's cool anyway. By the way, last year, you know, I kind of mentioned that I thought I was saying Kylie's name correctly, but I wasn't really sure. And subsequently, Ruben told me in an email that yes, that is how it's pronounced. And, you know, that she constantly has people, I guess, calling her Kaylee instead, like at Starbucks and whatnot. So, you know, I try to make sure I pronounce people's names properly just because I have that problem with my last name. Like, I don't even bother telling people my last name. I just spell it. You know, if someone, okay, what's your last name? I just spell it because, like, you know, it's, there's no hope. So anyway, they sent a very generous, beautiful art book last Christmas. And so here we go with whatever we got this Christmas. And as I said, just thank you so much. Oh, is there something? Oh, wow, I'm sorry. I didn't see this. Where the little tag is, there's a little cool shell. I don't know what you would call that, but that's pretty neat. So, glad that didn't accidentally hit the ground. So, again, paper ripping noises. So now it's red underneath. Okay, I don't see a note, so we're gonna get right into it here. Okay, so we got these things called pixel frames. I think I've seen these before. So, wow, this is awesome. I've never seen one in person. I mean, I think I've seen them on the internet. Wow, these are really cool. So you can see here, the Streets of Rage. What do you call that? Like a shadow box, I think they're called, right? Hopefully this is coming through on camera, okay? But yeah, you can see you've got, what is that? Blaze and Axel there, and then that's the level 1 boss, and then that's one of those dominatrix chicks with the red leather, and then just that's just like the standard enemy. I forgot what his name is, but wow, I mean, that's really cool. And I mean, it just comes in, and I don't know if you can't see it, but it's in a nice, like, it's a black wooden frame. So I'm gonna have to find a place to put these up, because then there's another one in here too. So, oh gosh, there's 3 of them. Wow. So next one we've got here is Sonic the Hedgehog, and you can see that is the level 1 stage 1 boss fight. Well, it's, you know, at the end of stage 1-3 or whatever, where you know, Dr. I always get Dr. Wily and Dr. Robotnik mixed up for some reason. It's Dr. Robotnik, or is it the same guy? I get it mixed up with Mega Man because they're all doctors, you know, although according to some people maybe not. But you know, this is the one where he's got the ball that's swinging back and forth. You know, I mean, no matter how little you've played Sonic the Hedgehog, I have to think that you've seen the level 1 boss. Wow, that's really cool. And then we have one more still. And it's funny because it's like, these are my, I mean, I guess it's not hard to tell because I've probably talked about it enough on the show, but you know, this is basically my 3 favorite games on the Genesis. I mean, I would say Streets of Rage 2 I like better than Streets of Rage, but I love them both. But I'm just saying, these are sort of, I'll just say, representatives of 3 of my favorite game franchises on the Genesis. Of course, we have probably my favorite Genesis game. I don't know. It's a close call, I would say, between, no note, right? Okay. Close call between Sonic the Hedgehog and Golden Axe for my favorite, all-time favorite Genesis game. So these are really cool. In fact, I just want to open one of them and just kind of check it out. If I can get it open. Here we go. Just feel awkward trying to open stuff when the camera's rolling, you know? You feel like you have to hurry up and get it open. Whoops. So it comes with like a little commemorative plaque that I guess you're supposed to stick. I don't know why they don't just stick it, but that's okay. Oh yeah, and then it comes with a thing so you can hang it on the wall there. But so it'd be nice if I can find a spot where I can hang all 3 of them. Maybe like down in the basement, and I'm running out of wall space, but actually I've got some wall space that just freed up over there. So I don't know. We'll find a place for these. So Ruben and Kylie, I really, you know, I've had that package for like, what, 3 weeks at least? And I've been really curious what was in there, but of course I didn't want to open it. So, so just thank you very much. As was the case last year, just extremely thoughtful. And, you know, of course it goes without saying you didn't have to do that, but that doesn't mean that I don't appreciate it. So there you go. So that's the 3 packages that we got from viewers. I have something stuck to my foot. So now we're going to get to the 2 items that I got for myself. And again, these are not video game related. These are just things that I wanted to buy just for myself, where I just thought in both cases it was something I wanted to share with you guys. In one case, it's sort of more of a flashback-esque, just me talking about Christmases past. And the other one does not fall into that category. So the first one we're going to open is the sort of flashback-esque package. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is the wrapping. Although the story of the wrapping and the story of what's inside here are very much related. So when I was, you know, I don't know, preteen and a teenager, you know, I generally spent Christmas with my mom, and he wasn't my stepdad yet. He is now. His name's Ken, so I'll just, you know, so I don't have to keep saying my stepdad. You know, Ken would come over. So they didn't live together because they weren't they're not that, you know, conservative or whatever at all, but I'm saying they weren't married, they didn't live together. Ken would come over on Christmas morning and he would have all the packages, you know, presents that he would bring with him. And he always would wrap, he never would buy wrapping paper. He would always wrap his gifts in the Sunday comics because they're in color. And if you think about it, I mean, the Sunday comics makes awesome wrapping paper because, first of all, I think it looks cool. But then once you've unwrapped your gifts, you can read the funnies. So, you know, I know that newspapers are not really anywhere near as popular anymore. But, you know, I think for all of us growing up, I mean, you got the paper every day. Who didn't get the newspaper every day? And so we would save, for the whole year, we would save all the Sunday comics, and then Ken got the newspaper as well, and he would save all the Sunday comics. So by the time Christmas rolled around, you know, he would have had like 100, you know, little packets or whatever of the Sunday comics. And of course, back then, the Sunday comics used to be a lot bigger. I was surprised. So, you know, I don't know anybody in my neighborhood who gets the newspaper anymore. And so just to get the comics to wrap these up, I had to go to a newsstand and buy like a few Sunday editions of the newspaper. And which I was surprised. I didn't realize like a Sunday newspaper now is like $4, which I mean, whatever, but it's just like, didn't that used to be like $1? But the other thing I was really surprised by is how small the comics section is. Like I got you know, our local paper is the Sacramento Bee, and you know, that paper is not that big of a deal, so I didn't expect the comics section to be that big. It's really just, it's like one big sheet that's folded, right? So that would be like 4 pages of comics. But, you know, I've also bought a Sunday edition of the San Francisco Chronicle, which when I was a kid, yeah, our local paper was a little bit, you know, thin on comics. But if you got the San Francisco Chronicle, it had a huge comic section. But it also had just like 4 pages or whatever. So it's kind of, it's a little bit stupid because I was paying $4 for basically one sheet of comics, but that's okay. So anyway, all of the gifts that Ken would bring over that were wrapped packages were wrapped like this. And then he would also bring over a stocking. And it's funny because the stocking always had like variations of the same thing in it. He would put some oranges in there because I don't know how it is elsewhere, but here, oranges are in season around Christmas time. Oranges, mandarins, I think pretty much all citrus fruit. And, but everything that was in the stocking was like utilitarian. Like there would always be like 1 or 2 toothbrushes in there. For some reason, he was big into giving out flashlights for Christmas. Because I think he would do most of his Christmas shopping. Sorry, I got a hair rubbing my nose there. He would do most of his Christmas shopping at Costco. And I don't know if they still have this, but like, you know, in the 90s, they would always sell this little like gift pack. It was like a Maglite, you know, the flashlight brand Maglite. They would sell this little gift pack where you got one sort of bigger Maglite that took like C cells or maybe even D cells. And then you'd get one like little flashlight that just took 2 AA batteries. And I would say every year at Christmas, I got at least one of, you know, maybe I'd get a big one, maybe I'd get a little one. He was just really big into flashlights, but you have to remember, this was a time when we didn't all have phones in our pockets that had flashlights on them. And this was also, you know, 25, 30 years ago when it wasn't nearly as uncommon as it is now for the power to go off in your house. And so having a flashlight in like every room of your house was just, you know, common practice, I would say. So, you know, and then he'd probably throw some candy and stuff in there too. You know, I'm sort of speaking of all this in the past tense, not because he's no longer with us, but, you know, at this point, he's very old. He's in his 90s. And I don't know, I'm sure somebody else out there knows what I'm talking about. When you have a relative that old, it's like the person that you knew is sort of still there, but also kind of not. I don't know how to describe that in more detail, I guess. But certainly at his age, Ken is no longer buying gifts for anyone, really. So, so what was exciting for me is, so the thing that's in this package is not only wrapped the way Ken would wrap it, but the item that's in here is something that Ken gave me, and I think also gave my mom every single year. So we'll open it up. This was something that for a long time they stopped making, and this was the first year that I saw it back in stores. I got this at a bookstore, and when I saw it, I bought 2 of them because I wrapped the other one the exact same way in the comic book paper, and I sent it to Ken for Christmas with a nice card, sort of explaining, like, hey, you remember, you used to give me these, and again, I don't know if he remembers or not. My mom just sent me a text and said, oh, he loves it, so that's all the feedback I got. But what this is the Far Side off the wall calendar. So I assume most of you guys know what these are. So, calendars, I guess that's another thing that in a lot of ways, smart devices have sort of sidelined calendars. Because the other thing I would get probably every year from Ken is at least one wall calendar, which I never really use that much. But so I get at least one wall calendar and at least one desk calendar. And, basically what these are. Oh, and I mean, when I say I got this every year, I mean, I literally got the Far Side desk calendar every single year. Like, he bought himself one, he bought me one, he bought, my mom one. He had other kids from a previous marriage. I'm pretty sure he bought, I think he probably bought like 7 or 8 of them. And I think pretty much everybody on his gift list would get one of these. So it's basically a pad of paper that has one page for every day of the year. And so every day you get a new Far Side cartoon. And yeah, so there's Wednesday, January 13th, and there's the cartoon. And then the next day you rip it off and you have a new one. And then, some people, including myself, will probably end up saving the pages and using the backs as scratch paper. And then, like, here on the back, see, it's got like this little kickstand so that you can just have it sitting on your desk there. But when I was a kid, the Far Side was like huge. I think it, the Far Side, Garfield, Peanuts, Calvin and Hobbes were like probably the big comics that, no matter what newspaper you picked up, those 4 would be there. And then the rest of them, it's like, oh, maybe they have this, maybe they have that. But like, if you didn't have those 4, you were like not even a legitimate comics section, in my opinion. And I don't know this for a fact, but it feels like Gary Larson was really the guy that pioneered this single frame comic style. I mean, that was popular for like political comics, but for something like that to be in the comic section of the newspaper, like for a long time, that was the only one that I saw. And I feel like now, since he's retired, if you read the comic section now, there are a lot of people who are using that same style. And if you want to say ripping it off, I just say, Gary Larson was very influential. And so the fact that other people are now modeling comic styles after him is really not very surprising at all. But so like I said, I was so happy to find this because it's like a little nugget of my youth that I found. But I also saw it as an opportunity to kind of connect with Ken a little bit and send him one. So yeah, so that's that. And then the other one here, since I was just talking about calendars, you might think that this is a calendar, but it's not. And I'm going to try to be a little bit careful when I unwrap this because, again, these are $4 comic pages, and I wanted to try to reuse some of this to wrap things for this Christmas. So, well, hopefully, use too much tape. Okay, so let's talk a little bit. Sorry for the noise. Let's talk a little bit about Christmas music. There are certain things that even at my age, I know I've said in the past, I have a hard time getting into the Christmas spirit every year. I don't have kids and I don't have family around. It's like, it's one thing not to have kids, but like, I don't have nieces or nephews around either. So I don't have like any, children to sort of live vicariously through. And I feel like that's kind of a big thing for adults. I mean, those of you who have kids can chime in and tell me what you think. But there's just sort of certain little triggers that'll at least get me into the Christmas spirit a little bit. You know, watching Christmas movies like Home Alone, or kind of to a lesser extent, A Christmas Story, just because I feel like, you know, it was TBS, TNT, I don't even know who's doing it at this point, you know, where they show it for 24 hours straight. It's like I've seen it so many times that I've been desensitized to it now, which is sad. But, or even just sort of like the sight of a Christmas tree, you know, all lit up, you know, kind of takes me back to being a kid. But along those lines, you have Christmas music. And I personally don't really get too much into like modern Christmas music. Like, I don't have an issue with it, but like, I don't know, I feel like I see on social media, you know, like every Thanksgiving, people start complaining about, oh, now I have to listen to that Mariah Carey song, you know, 100 million times again, which I don't understand the problem. I think it's a pretty good song, but, you know, for me, the kind of music that's going to get me into the Christmas spirit is music that I was already listening to when I was a kid. And I still listen to a lot of that now. Like we have like one of those Amazon Alexa Echo, I don't know what it is, the little sphere or whatever, the thing that's spying on you. We have one of those in our kitchen, and I have that like synced up with Sirius satellite radio, because I have a subscription to that, and Spotify. And so I listen to Christmas music that way. And like there's a channel on Sirius that's called like Holiday Traditions or something like that. And it has like all the music that, you know, like the old crooners, you know, you get like, you know, Frank Sinatra and Bing Crosby, and Nat King Cole, you know, well, I wouldn't call Burl Ives a crooner by any stretch, but like that kind of stuff, you know, or Jose Feliciano with Feliz Navidad, Elvis Presley, Blue Christmas, that's a good song. The song from Peanuts, which if I'm not mistaken, isn't that just the theme song from Peanuts? And I think people just associate it with Christmas now because of the Peanuts Christmas special, but it's not really a Christmas song, but I mean, that's okay. I don't care. But so that station plays more of like that, you know, traditional stuff. And then if you want, there's other stations where you can hear, you know, Mariah Carey and Michael Bublé and all of those guys. But I'm not really into that stuff personally, just because, you know, there's nothing wrong with it, but it doesn't make me feel nostalgic in any way. But, you know, you can't really listen, in my opinion, to like that holiday traditions kind of stuff for too long before you just get kind of sick of it. Like I have sort of a personal rule or guideline or whatever, that I don't start listening to Christmas music until Black Friday, like the day after Thanksgiving. Because like I don't like, you know, I like Halloween. Like I like Thanksgiving, and I don't like it when like other, you know, bigger name holidays start stepping on the toes of those holidays. So like when it's Halloween season, like I'm in Halloween mode. And when it's Thanksgiving coming up, I'm excited about Thanksgiving. Like I'll worry about Christmas when we get to the Christmas season. So for me, Christmas season starts on Black Friday. Like that's the day that I'll start maybe putting up decorations. That's the day that I'll start listening to Christmas music, because that helps me not get sick of it. But at the same time, it is nice to kind of expand one's horizons a little bit and say, well, maybe how many times can I listen to, you know, White Christmas and Jingle Bells and whatnot. And a few years ago, my wife and I discovered this band that is based here in Northern California, that's made up of musicians that all have like full-time, you know, musician jobs with other bands. And in some cases, I mean, these guys have some pretty strong resumes as far as the kind of artists that they work with. But every Christmas they come together and form this sort of temporary Christmas band, and they go on tour around Northern California and maybe go to Oregon and Washington a little bit. And I have all of their CDs, but they only ever put out one record, like vinyl record, because this band's been around long enough that they were around when people were still buying vinyl. And that is the Christmas Jug Band. Try not to get the glare there. So it's jug band style music. So it's like all acoustic, but you know, it's like, you can see here you've got an accordion, a washboard, a few guitars. They'll have like the jugs that they blow into. I don't know how else to really describe jug band music. What I would say is if you're somebody that likes listening to like the Dr. Demento show, things of that nature, the Christmas jug band is like comedy. Most of it is comedy music. Actually, not all of it. And not a lot of it. Some of their best songs actually are not comedy songs. But this was their first album, and it came out in '87. And from what I bought this straight from the label. That's Globe Records. But I think this is still an original pressing because I think they still have some just sitting around. I mean, this band has never achieved any kind of like, national or international fame, which I think is a shame. But yeah, anyway, so like I've got the first album here. But so what I was going to say about the Christmas Jug Band though is, so my wife and I have seen them live now twice because they just put on a fun show. And, last year at Christmas, we went and saw them and then bought their latest CD. And then right after that, we went on like a little 2 or 3 day road trip right before Christmas. And we were just listening to that CD the entire time in the car. And so even though that was only a year ago, it's just like listening to it now, that was just a really good Christmas. And listening to that now kind of gives me back the feeling of that Christmas. But it just has become a sort of a newer tradition in our house that we listen to a lot of Christmas jug band. And some of what they do is covers of Christmas songs. Some of them are not, or some of them are sort of parodies of Christmas songs. This album has Rudolph the Bald-Headed Reindeer, which is a pretty funny song. Santa Claus Wants Some Lovin', so that one's a little bit racy, I guess. But some of their later stuff is a little bit better, but this is still very good. But like other songs I like, there's one called Santa Claus Is My Main Man, and it's about how Santa Claus got drunk on Christmas. Somebody Stole My Santa Claus Suit, Shoveling Snow, I Ain't Your Christmas Tree. It's just, in my opinion, they're all very talented musicians, but it's that kind of, like I said, Dr. Demento show, or anybody that lives in, this part of California. If you know K-Pig, the Santa Cruz radio station, this is the kind of stuff they play on K-Pig. If you're somebody that's just sort of got a sense of humor or can accept a little bit of irreverence, I think the Christmas Jug Band just makes like a really cool, not substitute, but just something that you can sort of add to the rotation when you're listening to Christmas music. And so what I did is I, just for personal use, I made a playlist of all of my favorite Christmas Jug Band songs on Spotify, because I just got Spotify. I don't know, I didn't know about it or whatever for a long time. But my understanding is that I can share Spotify playlists with people, and you can just sign up for a free Spotify account. You don't have to pay for Spotify, you just can, and then I think you don't get the ads. So I don't really know how all that works, but I'm going to put a link to the Spotify playlist that I made in the video description, and hopefully you can listen to that. But like if you have Tidal, which is another streaming service, Tidal, they have, I think their greatest hits album is on there, which is called Jugology. I know they're on Apple Music, so if you have Apple Music, just search for Christmas Jug Band. Or you can find some of their stuff just on YouTube. People have uploaded it. So yeah, I mean, I just wanted to share that with you guys because, like I said, for the last few years, the Jug Band has just become a big part of our Christmas. And, a lot of their songs are already becoming Christmas classics in our house. So I've had this for like a month and I haven't even opened it. Oh, yeah, I wanted to open it because supposedly this has green vinyl. So I was curious to check that out. And it's funny, there's a rip in the cellophane. So, like, they taped it before they mailed it out. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't really... If the rip had been there and not taped, like, I wouldn't have really cared, But, like, this is a fun thing to put on. Like, we'll put this on, like, while we're decorating the Christmas tree or whatever. And, these songs, a lot of them are real catchy, and they'll get, like, Somebody Stole My Santa Claus Suit gets stuck in my head a lot. One other thing I wanted to say, actually, real quick about this. One of the founding members of the Christmas Jug Band is a guy named Dan Hicks. And he had his own band called Dan Hicks and His Hot Licks. And he put out his own Christmas album called Hot for Christmas. So you can look that up, Dan Hicks, Hot for Christmas, because he wrote a lot of their songs, the Christmas Jug Band songs. And so he'll have the same songs on his album, but maybe they're arranged a little bit differently or something. So that's kind of cool. So, oh yeah, cool. So it is, look at that. That looks, hopefully, can you see that coming through there? That's pretty cool anyway. I don't know. So now I'm looking forward. I already have this on CD, but, you know, I do like collecting vinyl. And quite frankly, I also just wanted to support the Jug Band. They, of course, did not get to go on tour this year, but I look forward to seeing them again as soon as possible. So I think that's going to conclude this portion of the Christmas special. So now we are going to go downstairs, play a little bit of Sega Genesis, and then check out a couple of old Radio Shack toy flyers, and more importantly, the 1989 Sears Christmas Wishbook. Now we're down here in the basement. I took a little break between, you know, filming the first segment and now. And so just, Michael, if you're still watching, everything in that box cleaned up just fine. And I was even able to salvage those cheese snacks by just, whatever was still in the bag, I poured it into a container. And it's totally fine. I had some, by the way, and they're delicious. And my wife thought so too. So again, thank you very much. Okay, so we're down here, well, firstly, to play this Genesis game, as I mentioned. So, well, here, I'll show you the game here. Stupid glare. Yeah, okay, so you see it's called Mega Christmas 89. I'm assuming the 89 is referring to the year the Genesis came out, but, I mean, 89 was also just a good quality year. And in fact, as I said, the Sears catalog we're going to look at is also from 89. So that's just a coincidence. But anyway, so just a little bit of quick backstory on this game. There's a guy I follow on Twitter named Shane Lynch, and he's like an independent game programmer, and I don't know what else he does, but I follow him on Twitter because he's part of like he contributes to the Mr. Project. So, and I don't know, 3 weeks ago, maybe, like very early in December, he had tweeted about this game that he made and had a link to his website. So I went and checked it out, and there's like a gameplay video so you can see what the game is like. I thought, oh, that game looks pretty cool. You know, and I was trying to find things to do for this Christmas special, and I noticed that there were pictures of physical cartridges like this on his website. And so I messaged him and I said, hey, do you have any more of those? Because I'd like to buy one for this Christmas episode. And he said no, because these were all from last year. And so he reached out to the guy that made these for him to see if he wanted to make any more. But I mean, this was like super last minute, because like I said, it was earlier this month. And, you know, I think it was kind of too late for the guy to make some more of these. And so Shane actually made this one for me out of like spare parts that he had just sitting around, and let me purchase it. So I just want to say a big thanks to Shane for being willing to do that. Especially because if you want to play this game, you can download the ROM for free on his website. Like, you don't have to pay for the game. Although there's like a little mechanism where I think you can like make a donation to the developer if you like the game. But if you want to just check it out, you can play it for free. I just wanted to have a physical cartridge again because it's like the Christmas episode, and so it's a little bit cooler if I have something to show on camera. But, you know, also it's just, this is kind of cool to have. I mean, you know, it's in a green translucent case. It's a very Christmassy looking game. So, so anyway, we're gonna fire it up and just play it for like 10 minutes. I think it's a really cool game. I did play it right before now, like between recording the first segment and now. I figured, well, I don't want to look like too much of a dope, so I wanted to play it a little bit. I'm using my Mega SG for this. I was going to get Genesis out, but frankly, this is just easier, and nobody would know the difference if I didn't say anything anyway. So, so yeah. So we turn on the Mega SG, and then I have to remember to start the recording. Start.
猫舌
And yeah, so that's the name of his, indie studio is Nekojita. So I think that's part of the name of the website if you go there. So so here you go. Here we have it, Mega Christmas '89. So we'll just hit start. And so here it's just giving you like, this didn't come with an instruction manual. I mean, it's a pretty basic game. You don't need an instruction manual. So it's just showing you the controls. You can steer Santa. So, I mean, as you can see, it's like, if it's not obvious already, it's a Santa skiing game. And so there's your basic controls. There's jumps that you can hit to do tricks. And then on the other side, it's showing you some of the items and the levels, obstacles you need to dodge. There's presents just like strewn about on the mountain that you can pick up for points. If you're doing the slalom mode, then you want to go between the flags. And then the two things you want to watch out for are snowboarding elves. And then I don't know, it's not an abominable snowman. I don't know what you want to call that. Some kind of monster. Stay away from it. So, all right, so we're going to hit start to get the game going. And then I'm going to pause it again real fast just to show you. From here, this is how you pick what game mode you want. If you go down to the left to slalom, then you do slalom mode. If you just go straight down, it's like freestyle mode where you're getting points for doing tricks. Like in slalom, you're getting points just for staying up and going through the gates, picking up those presents. Freestyle, you're also getting points just for staying up, but then you're getting points for like doing like, spins up in the air, like jump tricks and whatnot. And then over on the right is just free ski, which is kind of like what it sounds like. It's just you're skiing around and you don't have any lives. There's not a high score you're trying to get because you can't die. Speaking of free ski though, that's basically what this game is based on. There was a Windows game that was part of one of the Microsoft entertainment packs that was called Ski Free. And that was sort of the inspiration. This is sort of like a Christmas version of Ski Free on the Genesis. So we'll check out some slalom and we'll check out some freestyle. I'm not going to bother going into the free ski area just because there's nothing new over there. It's really more if you just need to practice or something. And I mean, I'll shut up for a minute so you can just check out the music in the background because that's pretty cool. And from what Shane told me about the game, I think their name is in the credits. I missed one of the gates. He had somebody redo the music for him because I think maybe when he had programmed the music, maybe it didn't sound super hot. But I think outside of that, I think he made this game, mostly just by himself. So, I mean, that's obviously quite impressive. I have no idea what goes into that. So you see we're going through the gates here, and I missed another one. Oh, what did I crash into? How did I get game over already? I don't get it. Did I reach the bottom? Okay, I'm not really sure what happened there. You're supposed to be able to crash 3 times from what I've seen before you get game over. I don't know. I'm not really sure what happened there. Oh, I wonder if it's like you can only miss a certain number of gates. I bet that's it. And you see, it doesn't have anything on the screen that tells you that, like how many gates you've missed. But I have to imagine that's why I got game overed. Yeah, you can't hit trees. So yeah, I think that's what it is. I think I missed 2 gates and then hit a tree. And so then like, that's it. That's end of your game. So I'm going to do one more slalom because I'm not doing too well, but I don't know. Like I said, I think this game is pretty cool. I mean, for just being, an indie game or whatever, I mean, whatever that really even means, I think this game is in a lot of ways better than some retail games that I've had to play, Genesis games, just for my show. So, I certainly have no regrets buying this game off of Shane, and I also think that if a game like this had been available, back in the late 80s or early 90s, maybe fleshed out a little bit more or something, this would have been, I think, a pretty solid holiday release. Yeah, see, now I'm doing a lot better, not missing the gates. So, I mean, it seems like, you know, you can still pick up the presents and you do still get bonus points for that, but certainly you don't want to do that at the expense of missing a gate like I just did, because I think, like I said, you're basically costing yourself a life. So I think we're down to our last gate that we can miss. So yeah, there you go. See, so that's it. That's gonna be game over. Yeah, okay, because I missed 3 gates. All right, so that's the slalom mode, which I think is already pretty fun. Because I mean, if you get really good at this game, I mean, you can keep going for a long time and rack up a high score. So next we're gonna do freestyle. And the big difference with freestyle is that here you'll see there's these orange jumps. So here there's nothing that you have to like hit or whatever, or you're gonna lose a life. Here you only lose a life if you crash. So here's a jump. So if off the yellow jumps you get enough air that when you hit the C button you spin, and you can spin twice if you go off one of those yellow jumps because you get more air, like I said. You can also, you see there's 2 different sizes of like, I don't know, snow humps or something. You can jump off of the bigger snow humps and that will give you enough air to spin once while you're jumping. So now I hit the bush. I mean, it's too bad that it only has jingle bells, but at the same time, I have to say I think it sounds really good. So, and again, just for an indie game, I mean, you can't expect too much. Like I said, I'm very impressed. I don't know the first thing about game programming, so you know, I could never make something like this. So, oh, I hit the elf. Oh yeah, see, I tried to go for 3 spins again and didn't make it. So anyway, that's game over. So I mean, that's it. That's Mega Christmas 89. Like I said, we won't check out the free ski section because it's just, free ski is pretty much just like this freestyle section, except that you can crash as many times as you want and you don't get game over. So so that's it. That's Mega Christmas 89. Big thanks to Shane for putting this cartridge together for me. I will put a link in the description to the page where you can go and download this ROM, and you can just load it up. You know, EverDrive, Mister, Mega SG, Raspberry Pi, RetroArch, however you play Genesis ROMs. So now I just need to do a little bit of quick reconfiguring of my desk so that it's in more of like magazine read-through mode, and then we're going to check out a couple of Radio Shack toy flyers from back in the day, and more importantly, the Sears 1989 Christmas Wishbook. Now, through the magic of television, we're all set up to do a flick through of these flyers and catalogs. I figure we'll start with these Radio Shack flyers just because they're really short. First thing I want to say though, I don't have any specific names, but you know, I did put out, you know, I don't know, feelers is not the right word, but both on my Patreon page and on the community tab here on the YouTube channel, just asking for suggestions from people of what kind of stuff we could do for the Christmas episode this year. And at least 2 people mentioned doing exactly what we're doing now. So I just wanted to say thanks to anybody that made this suggestion because it was a good one. So we'll start, as I said, with the Radio Shack flyers here. So this is probably the kind of thing that would have gotten mailed to your house. You know, it was sort of a famous running joke back in the day. I mean, I think it even got mentioned on Seinfeld that, you know, you'd go into Radio Shack for anything and they would ask for your name and address. And as somebody that worked at Radio Shack, I can tell you that people got really annoyed by that. But The only reason we ever wanted people's name and address is so that we could put them on a mailing list and they could receive things like this in their mailbox. And you can see even on the back here, there's a spot to put a mailing label, because probably these were picked up by somebody who actually went into the store. So anyway, we have 92, 93, and 94 here. So there's not too much to look at here, but there were a couple of things that I thought were neat. First, here on the cover of the 92 flyer, these musical Christmas lights, just because I remember at one point I had a set of these, and I remember Jonathan also had a set of these. So this was just like a long, it's 100 lights, so I don't know how long that would be, about maybe 25 feet or something. Just a long string of lights that, you know, had different patterns you could program into it. Like, you know, they would blink, or there would be like sort of a chasing pattern that would happen. And I just remember that at that time, that seemed really cool because it wasn't something that you really saw very often. Now, of course, it's no big deal. But the other thing that's cool about this is that at the end where the power plug is like a little box with a speaker in it, and it will actually play Christmas music. So if you had these set up like outside and you had that little box somewhere where it was sheltered from the elements, you know, people walking by your house would see your cool light display and then get to hear a little bit of Christmas music. So, so that's kind of neat. Nothing else really here on the cover that I think is all that interesting. But in here you can see, you know, so one of the things that Radio Shack used to always do is, you know, they would have like knockoff products of, you know, other people's products, right? So like they had all these LCD handheld games that would be reminiscent of like Tiger handheld games. And like here they've got Sonic Sea Battle, so I don't know if maybe that's a battleship kind of thing or not, I'm not sure. Speedway, Raceway, Space Challenge. So they would just be like very generically named versions of, although I don't know for a fact that these were ever like Tiger handhelds, but nothing you ever saw at Radio Shack was like licensed. Like those Tiger handhelds, a lot of them would be licensed like Sega properties and things like that. Down here I remember these little tabletop electronic pinball games. And then what's 26 here is Galactic Man. And Galactic Man sure looks an awful lot like RoboCop. And then 27, I don't know if you guys remember Roby the Robot Banker. So it had like a little sensor kind of thing on it, where if you put a coin on Robbie's hand, if you want to call it that, that was enough weight to like trigger a switch. And then Robbie would open his mouth and like eat the coin. And I never had that. I don't think I'd even want it, but it's the kind of thing where if you saw it in the store, you would think it was pretty cool. And then down here, they've got some slot car sets. Over here are just some action toys. That's not really all that interesting. You know, these laser pistols where like, you know, it would make noise, but then probably the barrel, or whatever you want to call it out here, would light up red. Some walkie-talkies for kids. I remember when I was a kid, walkie-talkies were kind of a big deal. You know, if you had one and you gave one to your friend and you go run through the neighborhood pretending like you were doing God knows what. And then over here, so, well, first I'll just mention these radios. Just I think it's kind of interesting. So they had these, Radio Shack made these things called flavor radios, which were just radios that came in different colors. But what I thought was interesting here is 33 and 34 are AM/FM radios. But then down here, 35, these are just AM radios only. And it even says down here, AM flavor radios. Kids love them. And I can tell you, like when I was a kid, I would not have loved an AM only radio. Maybe there were still parts of the country in, what did I say this was, 1992? That, you know, still had decent quality AM radio stations, but where I lived, that was not the case. So, and then nothing over here is really particularly cool, but, you know, one of the big things that I used to always check out when I would go into Radio Shack was the remote control cars. Like I specifically remember having, or seeing the remote control van. So, so that's pretty cool. You know, for the most part, you know, cars like this did not hold a candle to proper hobbyist remote control cars, but they were never really meant to. I mean, if you look at the prices here, the most expensive one is $100. No, excuse me, $120 for this Black Phantom. Which, like, if you were just a kid and you had something like that, where, you know, like the motor had enough torque that, you know, if you gave it full send, it would like get the rear wheels to spin a little bit. You know, you would think that that was pretty cool. But, you know, comparing that to like a real proper remote control car, you know, it like I said, it was never meant to be that. But, you know, when I was a kid, I just remember, you know, you'd go outside on Christmas morning, and, you know, you'd hear multiple radio control cars zipping up and down the street. Yeah, it was a very popular gift, Christmas gift back then. And then on the back page here, the only thing I wanted to point out is these, I don't know if you'd call them electromechanical, I would call them electromechanical gambling games. So, you know, you had a lever, like I don't think these even took batteries. I think they were just, so they're not even really electromechanical, they're just mechanical. At least that's my recollection, is that you would pull this lever and that would get everything spinning, and then you'd hit these buttons to stop them. And I remember I had the slot machine one, which, you know, I don't know, as an adult, I don't understand the popularity of like these pocket gambling games, but when I was a kid, I got enough entertainment out of it, I guess, to make it worth it. But you see they have blackjack, slot machine, and draw poker. And I just bring your attention to these, because as we get into the other flyers, you'll see this was the last year that they had these mechanical versions. And then over here is electronic chess. And I remember that being something, you know, that we sold a lot of at Radio Shack. I mean, we had a lot of models available. I don't mean that we sold a lot of them. I've never been into electronic chess. I guess if somebody was really into chess and you didn't always have somebody to play with, you know, this was a time when not everybody had a computer in their house. And so if you wanted to be able to play chess, you know, at all, you needed something to play against. And so then I guess you could play electronic chess. But so that's the 92 flyer. So I'll go through the other two probably a lot faster here. But so like 93, now you can see that the pocket games are LCD based, although there was one in that one, in the 92 that was. Here you've got hands-free headset walkie-talkies. That would have been cool when you were a kid. But like here, it seems like these sort of replaced the mechanical pocket gambling games. But, you know, here again are the LCD games. A lot of them look like they're the same game. And a bunch of radio control cars, but not too much different. The only other thing I thought was interesting to point out is that you can see over here, they sell some Game Boy accessories, because they didn't used to sell too many like video game console accessories at Radio Shack. They would have like PC gaming accessories, but like here you've got this Game Boy Power Pack. And so that's like a battery pack that, like, you take off the battery cover on your Game Boy and just throw it in a drawer, because you're not going to need it, because this thing snaps into place of that. And then of course you can recharge it. So that would be kind of cool. And then here's this Booster Boy thing, which I think we've seen ads for that in some of the magazine read-throughs we've done. Like you slide your Game Boy into that, and you have a light and a magnifying glass, and controls that I guess maybe they think are better. I'm not too sure about that. And then here is the Game Genie for the Game Boy. $60 for the Game Genie for the Game Boy, which is a lot, because, you know, Game Boy games were only between $20 and $30. And so that was like the price of 2 games. And I mean, even a Game Boy console itself, they were $89 when they launched, but then the price by this time would have dropped, because you could get a Game Boy that didn't come with a pack-in game. More electronic chess and just whatever on the back there. Looks like a couple of new LCD games there, baseball and football. So then we get to the last one, 1994. You know, more of these gambling games. Now you have these little mini slot machines. And then they have this, I have an older version of something like this LCD Championship Golf 2. Obviously that's an LCD based golf game. I don't know how good that might be. I love playing golf video games, but I don't know how well it would work as an LCD game. I don't think I've ever played the one that I have. And then, oh yeah, okay, so here there's some more console accessories here. They have, there's that same battery pack, for the Game Boy. Number 2, it says fighter style joystick, contour grip, 2 fire buttons, 9-pin connector. So that would be for like Commodore 64 or Amiga, or I guess Sega Genesis, although you wouldn't have enough buttons. Usually when you see 9-pin connector, that means it's going to be for like home computers like the Commodore 64. You could play it on Atari, like Atari XE home computer, Atari 2600, Atari 7800. And then here, 3 and 4, 3 is a Radio Shack branded 6-button Sega Genesis controller, which I'm sure is probably not good, but I still think it would be cool to have one, or at least check one out. And then number 4 is a Super Nintendo controller. And of course, they have turbo buttons, because these are each $15, which doesn't seem super price competitive compared to just buying a first-party controller. And then there's that Game Boy thing again. I think that was kind of the main thing I wanted to point out in here. Once again, here's a bunch of radio control toys, including a radio-controlled dinosaur. That's kind of cool. And I remember, because I had a couple of these Radio Shack remote control cars, because when I worked there, I got an employee discount. I think I bought a couple that were already on clearance, because then we got an even bigger discount. And I remember having one of these fast chargers and an extra battery, because these batteries wouldn't last very long at all in these cars. And then what else we got over here? Oh yeah, the Super Armatron. So I don't know if that was a Radio Shack exclusive item or if they just sold it, but I always wanted one and never had one. But it's one of those things where like I wanted one, but what was I really going to do with it? Because it's just a little remote controlled, robotic arm, and like you could pick stuff up, and it seems like it would be neat, and then you'd get tired of it after about 10 minutes. And yeah, I don't know, I think that's about it. These weren't as exciting, but exciting for me because, like I said, when I was a kid, going to Radio Shack, especially around Christmas time, I put that on the same level as going to like Toys R Us or KB Toys. But now let's get to the main event, and that is this big bad mamma jamma. This is the 1989 Sears Great American Wishbook. And as you can see, I've already gone through and marked off the pages that we want to check out, but there's like 2.5 layers of these little dog tag things on here, because we have a lot of stuff to check out. So this might take a while. So the first page that I marked off here was watches. Just because when I was a kid, I had a fascination, I guess I kind of still do, with digital watches. I got my first watch in probably like 86 or 87, which was just a very basic Casio. But it just brought back memories seeing this sort of original style Timex Iron Man. Because like when I was a kid, if you had a Casio watch, like that was cool. Obviously, if you had a Swatch, that was cool. But a lot of kids also had these Timex Iron Man watches, which just kind of had a unique and iconic style to them. So that was cool to see. But we've also got over here Casio watches. And so the first watch that I had would have been something very similar to like number 6 here, which they're charging $24 for. Just a very basic, tells the time, has an alarm, maybe has a stopwatch in it, but pretty cheap watch. In fact, I might have had number 5, which is only $14, so that's even cheaper. But then the other thing that was cool about this page, well, 2 things actually. Unfortunately, I'm not wearing one of my watches right now, but you can still buy number 3 here. This is like the original style G-Shock, when like that was the only G-Shock there was. And you can still buy that watch, and they're still about the same price, actually, about $50 for that base model. But the thing that I wanted to show you that was cool is I mentioned in one of the previous, I think it was the first Christmas special, that I got that Casio calculator watch, and there it is right there, number 10. Databank watch memorizes up to 10 telephone numbers. And one thing I wanted to mention is I did look up sort of the inflation rates or whatever, and the value of a dollar has just about, almost exactly cut in half between 89 and now. So basically any price you see in here, double it if you want to know about what that would go for now. So like this Databank watch was about $44, so about $88 now. And then over here on the other side, we have some of these LCD game watches that were made by this company called Nelsonic. And they are licensed. So here you've got like Major League Baseball, Pac-Man, soccer game, and then some kind of driving game. But more importantly down here, you've got a couple of the Nintendo watches, Zelda and Super Mario Brothers. And when I was growing up, probably this year actually even, Jonathan had this Zelda watch. So I don't know how much fun they were to play, but it was just like, it was cool to have. At some point, I think I mentioned before, I had, I don't think it was a Nelsonic watch necessarily. I think it was a Tiger watch maybe, but it was like a Ninja Gaiden watch. But I had it in my backpack and it got stolen. That's kind of it for the watches. Nothing else. I mean, here you've got, watches that are sort of similar in styling to Swatch watches. There's a Diet Pepsi watch if you want that. I don't think there's anything else really. Yeah, not really. Well, is that Mickey Mouse watches? Yeah, they got a few Mickey Mouse watches. Mickey Mouse watches really weren't cool when I was a kid. I don't know if they were ever cool, to be honest with you. There's a G.I. Joe watch. The next thing, I mean, this has nothing to do with anything, but I know I've talked about this before in the Christmas episodes. Hickory Farms, just because, generally at the mall when I was a kid, there would be like a little, island stand or whatever in the middle of the mall where they would have all this Hickory Farm stuff, these gift boxes and whatnot, where, you can get shelf-stable meat and cheese products. So, I mean, I don't know how good of an idea it is to eat that kind of stuff, but it was pretty good anyway. The next thing here, there's a lot of clothes in here. We're not going to look through that, but I just thought this was interesting. F here, which they say, well, they don't name them, I guess, but there was a name for these, and it was moon boots. And I always think of moon boots as being more popular a little bit earlier than '89, but maybe my memory is faulty. But I just got a kick out of seeing those here. That was sort of a little, I don't know, Easter egg is not the right word, but just sort of a little detail in Napoleon Dynamite, which had a lot of references to the 80s in it, was that, Napoleon wore moon boots. And then I marked off sportswear, just because, here's just some old school, licensed sports stuff, because, it's popular now and it was popular then, when I was a kid, to have this kind of stuff, like some NFL sweatshirts in here, or here you can get a whole set, if you want the sweatshirt and the sweatpants. And I saw that. This was that like a popular thing that people were wearing for a while to play basketball or something? He's wearing what looks like cycling shorts. So I don't know. I don't remember that, but I do remember Converse having that NBA license. Those were cool shoes. I never wore Converse really. I mean, it was cool because they were an NBA license, but Converse were always kind of like a lower tier. What you really wanted to wear was like Nike Airs back then. And then here's these satin jackets. So I don't know what brand these are. They're not starter jackets, I don't think. Some of you might remember back then, the satin jackets were very popular to wear, but you wanted to have either the, I think it was chalk line at first, and then later it was starter. And those were like the nice satin jackets that had the satin lining. And then there were the cheaper jackets that had like that white synthetic fabric lining on the inside that wasn't nearly as nice, but I'm sure those jackets were a lot more affordable. Oh, that's definitely a chalk line because I can see the branding in there. It seems like chalk line was the earlier brand and then Starter came along. Not real sure. Just more of the same here. I don't know, just seeing this stuff brings back memories because this is the kind of stuff that we would wear when I was a kid. Speaking of which, here's stuff for kids. You know, you can get satin jackets or you can get beanie and scarf combos. And then we get into like kids' clothes. We don't need to look at that, but I did mark this off just because they had some licensed Nintendo sweats, although there's some pretty sweet acid washed action over there. But you know, it's funny, if you had any of this stuff now, I'm sure you could get a pretty penny for it if it was in good condition. And then, hey, there's a Micro Machines sweatshirt. That's pretty cool. But, you know, I guess I didn't say this before I started reading the catalog, but, you know, the reason these catalogs are so iconic is, you know, this is before the internet, really, and whatnot. And so something like a Sears Wishbook or a JCPenney Christmas catalog, this is the kind of thing that you might flip through as a kid to put together your Christmas list. So, or if nothing else, just you'd flip through it just to look at all the cool stuff that, you know, you wish you could have or whatever. Over here, I just wanted to point out, are some licensed pajamas. Like there you have Ghostbusters, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Nintendo Power. And then over here are some more licensed sweats, some more Nintendo stuff, and TMNT and Ghostbusters stuff. And then this was kind of a blast from the past. This is the kind of thing I had totally forgotten about, is pajamas with the built-in feet. When I was like a little kid, like, you know, 4, 5, 6 years old, I wore pajamas with the built-in feet, and I just it just brought back this memory of just when I was a kid. And, you know, I mentioned a couple nights a week I would go over to my grandparents' house. And my mom would come pick me up, but it would be after I went to bed. You know, my grandma would give me a bath and then put me in, you know, one of these sets of pajamas with the feet built in, and then, you know, put me to bed for a couple hours until my mom came and got me. So it's just one of those things I'd kind of forgotten about until I saw it in this catalog. And over here are just a few more licensed sweatshirts. The one that stuck out to me was RoboCop here, just because, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, you know, because it's a kid's sweatshirt, but I forgot what movie it was that, you know, was talking about the license. It was Platoon, I think, in one of those magazine read-throughs where I'm like, kids shouldn't be watching Platoon, so like, why would you make a licensed Nintendo game? And it's the same thing, like little kids really probably shouldn't be watching RoboCop, so I just thought it was kind of funny that that they had the sweatshirt. And then here we get into the toy section, although over here are some more, you know, licensed, I don't know, is this supposed to be sleepwear? Yeah, it says nightwear. For slightly older kids, and like, I'm not trying to make fun of anybody or anything, I don't know what's going on. I don't even know what you call that. It says it's a night shirt, but I mean, that kid looks like he's like 16 or 17 years old, so I can't imagine anybody that age wanting to wear anything like that. But I don't know, the rest of that stuff's pretty cool. Like when I was like 11 or 12, I 100% would have wanted to wear stuff like that. And then, like I said, so over here we get into some of the toys. And this is going to be a pretty big section. So, oh yeah, okay. So I marked off stuff because like we don't need to look at like dolls and whatnot, right? But over here is Play-Doh, and I mean, that was a big thing when I was a little kid, was having some of these Play-Doh sets, like the Fun Factory, or here's a Burger King licensed set so that you can make Whoppers. The flour making basket from that's Tyco Super Dough though, so that's a competing product to Play-Doh. Do they still make Play-Doh? I mean, I haven't seen it, but I don't really go on the aisles at the store where I guess Play-Doh would be. Next here are some Fisher-Price toys, and you know, these are toys that by this time they had been making for a number of years. And it's like the same kind of thing. Like I just see this and it gets some memories flooding back. Like I had completely forgotten about the Fisher-Price cash register. But as soon as I saw that, like I could reimagine the feeling of like putting those plastic coins in there and pressing down those buttons. And then down here are a couple of sets for the Fisher-Price Little People line. And I don't know if anybody's ever noticed, but on top of my game shelf upstairs, you can see it in some of my videos. I have a Fisher-Price Little People's car with a couple of little people in it. But when I was probably like, 3, 4, 5 years old, this was like my favorite toy, were these Little People sets. My mom managed to get me quite a bit of that stuff. She found it at like it was either a thrift store or like a used toy store or something. So I had a pretty decent sized collection of those. And then next over here, I marked off, did we skip something? No? All right. I marked off these, it's sleeping bags and tents, because like when I was a kid, as I'm sure it still is now, it was popular that you would go spend the night, at a friend's house or something. And oftentimes, you'd bring your own sleeping bag. And I don't remember ever seeing any kind of crazy sleeping bags like this, but I thought they were kind of cool to look at. But they also have like these tents, and I had one of these tents. Well, here's more sleeping bags still. Oh, hey, there's Police Academy. That's the Police Academy cartoon. And Super Mario Brothers. I don't know what the Skeleton Crew thing is. It seems like sort of a semi-posery skating thing. Although this F-14 one looks pretty cool. Probably kind of riding on the coattails of Top Gun. And then there's a Hot Wheels sleeping bag. But somewhere in here, oh yeah, okay. So I had one of these. This was like a tent. I think what I had wasn't this exact brand, but it was like a tent that was the size of a twin size mattress, and it was made so that you could slip it over your mattress and sleep in it. And I had one that had like stars and planets all over it. It was before, this would have been in like 85 maybe, or 86, maybe even 84. So by this time I was 12 years old, and so I wasn't going to be interested in having like a tent to put on my bed. But when I was like 6, 7, 8 years old, that would have been pretty cool. And then here, just to point out, is a pretty cool DuckTales set. And then the last thing I wanted to mention was number 13 and number 16 here are these Slumber Mate bags. And this was a bag that was sized to hold the sleeping bag. You could roll it up and stuff it in there, and then have enough space left over for, maybe some clean clothes and a toothbrush or something, if you were going, to a friend's house for a sleepover. And I had one of these when I was a little kid, like 5, 6, 7 years old, and I still have it. And it's a He-Man and the Masters of the Universe Slumber Mate bag. I don't use it for anything because it's in kind of not the best condition, and I don't want anything bad to happen to it. But I didn't realize until I saw this catalog that it was like a whole product line, and especially one that was still around. And if you see on this page, there's more. Like there's a Ghostbusters one, Ninja Turtles, Mickey Mouse, My Little Pony. So I don't know, stuff like this was just I think really cool to have. And then I marked off beds, just because if you guys remember, I don't know how popular these are anymore. As I've said many times, I don't have kids, and so I don't know how popular some of this stuff is now, if you can still buy like a race car bed, for instance, but that's pretty neat. And then I just noticed over here, Cherry from Pee-wee's Playhouse. I thought that was pretty neat, to have like a kid-size armchair that, you could sit in. And then on the very next page are bean bags. Again, I don't know, are bean bags still popular? In the 80s, bean bags were, I would say most households had a bean bag in them. Certainly we had one, not a licensed one like this, but these were just sort of like, generally speaking, a bean bag was made out of like pleather, and the beans were like little styrofoam balls. And We used to flop, you'd flop down in it, but then, I knew kids who they'd flop down in it and it would tear the bag open, and then those little styrofoam balls would just go everywhere. What's the next thing we've got? Wrong page. Yeah, here we go. So I just wanted to point this one out. They've got a few Texas Instruments educational toys down here. Speak and Read, Speak and Spell, and Speak and Math. And I had a Speak and Spell when I was a kid. It had a voice in it, and it would tell you to spell a word. And, okay, next spell house. And you would type in house.
Next spell F0. That is correct.
So that's it's one of the reasons that the intro to a normal CGQ Plus episode is what it is that uses actual voice samples from a Speak and Spell, which they're not a band, I don't know what you call them, musical electronic group Kraftwerk also used voice samples out of a Speak and Spell and maybe out of a Speak and Math when they made the Computer World album. And as people know, I'm a big Kraftwerk fan, and so I know some people don't like the intro to my CGQ Plus videos, but it's like a double homage to the Speak and Spell, which is a beloved childhood toy, and to Kraftwerk, which is one of my favorite musical acts. Next here it says Read Along, and so these were they all Disney? The only ones I remember as a kid were Disney. And when I was a kid, the ones you'd get a book, or you'd get two books, and you'd get a cassette tape where one side of the tape was reading one book to you and the other side of the tape was reading the other book to you. But if you go back a little bit further in time, they had these read-along books. But, the reason that these books are the exact size that they are is in older times, like maybe the early 80s, late 70s, they came with a 45 RPM record. It's 45 sized record. I think it was probably still 33 1/3, but it was like a smaller sized record that would be tucked into like the back cover. But by this time, the world had pretty much moved on for the most part, to cassette tapes. But like a lot of these correspond to Walt Disney movies like Robin Hood, Bambi, Dumbo, Snow White, Lady and the Tramp, etc., etc. But it was a common thing, for kids in the 80s to have at least a couple of these laying around. Although, same thing with these, I didn't have gumball machines marked off specifically, but I just remember when I was a kid, it wasn't at all uncommon for people to have gumball machines in their house, because they were making these sort of consumer gumball machines that were meant to just sit on a countertop or something. Next, we get into Lego sets. And unfortunately, they don't have a huge, this is certainly not a substitute for a proper Lego catalog, but it shows some of the cool Lego sets from '89, including sets that I had. I always liked the Lego City sets, but I didn't really ever get into collecting them. But I always thought they were neat and I would look at them. But number 5, there's the Black Monarch's Castle. I had that. Number 6, what's the name of it? Knights Tournament. I had that. I say had in past tense, but I still have all my Legos from when I was a kid. And for sure, it was Christmas or birthday presents where I got number 5, Black Monarch's Castle, and number 7 is the Forestman's River Fortress. I think I saved up and bought number 6 myself. You can see number 6 here is only about $17, so that's the kind of thing I would have saved up and bought myself. And then number 8, the Sonic Transmitting Cruiser. These were, for a while they had these space sets where they had lights and sound. I never had that set, but Jonathan did, and I just remember thinking that it was really neat. Over here, this was probably my most wanted set that I never did get, is the Futuron Space Monorail. I would go look at it all the time at Toys R Us. They actually had it over with the model train stuff, because they had it actually built behind glass. again, over with the model train stuff rather than with the Legos. But I'd stop by that aisle just to check it out. But it's not something I could ever get. That set was $130 in 1989. And like by comparison, well, you know, sets that I did get as sort of big Christmas gifts, like these 2 castle sets, this Black Monarch's Castle is $54 and the Forestman's River Fortress is $28. So that tells you how expensive the Space Monorail was. Although I did have number 10 here, the Black Seas Barracuda, and that one was $90. But again, I got that as like a Christmas present or a birthday present. That was the big pirate set that I had, but Jonathan actually had all 3 of these pirate sets. Forbidden Island, the Caribbean Clipper, which was just like a smaller version of the Black Seas Barracuda. And like, you know, this was like the bad guys set, but the Caribbean Clipper was like the Imperial guys. So like the quote unquote good guys. And then he had El Dorado Fortress. I actually have that one now because I found it on Craigslist a number of years ago. And then over here are Tyco Super Blocks, which was just like a competing product to Legos. I would say that they were not as good. But you know, if you were a kid and you had those instead, then I'm sure you have some great memories of those. Next are baseball cards. I didn't really have too much to say about these, except that, you know, I talked about how I got into baseball card collecting when I was a kid. And I just noticed here that they have this baseball card collecting kit. It's, yeah, National Official Major League Baseball Card Collector Set. So I'm not saying I had exactly that, but it was something similar to that my dad got me, where it came with some cards and maybe some kind of little guide to collecting or something like that. But then I had totally forgotten about this. I had this Official Major League Baseball Card Collector's case where you could sort your cards into this thing. Like, it's very reminiscent of like that big Darth Vader's head case that you could keep your Star Wars figures in. But I did have that for a while, and that's an example of something that I totally forgot about until I saw it in this catalog. And then next here are some tabletop games. So like over here, like as we saw in the Radio Shack catalog, are some electronic pinball games, including some licensed ones. Here's a Super Mario Brothers pinball, the real Ghostbusters. So that's Ghostbusters, but it's the TV series, the cartoon. And then yeah, here's like, I think I knew at least one kid that had like one of these little pool tables. I never had anything like that. I did, my cousin Matt had one of these carom boards though, and those were pretty fun to play too. You know, it says in here, over 100 games in one. And I don't know about that, but you know, you did get multiple games with it, so that was pretty cool. But I wanted to keep going because there's like, yeah, sort of more of like what I think of as tabletop games. Like here's Operation. I think I mentioned that one time, like I had Operation, but I didn't really, it's when we were living kind of up in the mountains in Cameron Park. And so I didn't really have anybody to play it with. So I used to just play Operation by myself. If you guys remember Crossfire, I remember the commercials on TV for Crossfire, or I didn't know Rock'em Sock'em Robots were still a thing, but like there's Hungry Hungry Hippos, Mousetrap, if you guys remember the commercials on TV for Mousetrap, and Double Dare, the home game. You know, once we got cable, and so I had access to Nickelodeon, Double Dare was like one of my favorite TV shows when I was like, you know, 10 or 11 years old. And then here are just some more like traditional board games. You know, Pictionary, Boggle, Clue Master Detective. I don't think I've ever played the Master Detective version. I used to play original Clue with my friends. So I don't know if like this was supposed to be something a little bit more intricate. Risk, of course, was popular. Oh yeah, there's original Clue right there. Sorry, I had that one. I used to play that. Like my grandma bought me Sorry, and we just kept it at her house, and then she would play with me. Oh yeah, sorry, over here. I had this. This is another example. I completely forgot this existed until I saw it in this catalog. This Houdini magic set. So, because for a while, for some reason, I got all like fascinated by like magic. And so my dad bought me this Houdini magic set. Then we get into some LCD games. And, unlike the Radio Shack knockoff games, here we have the actual legitimate Tiger handheld games like Double Dragon, Gauntlet, Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest, Karate King. I don't know if that's a licensed one or not. Top Gun, Contra. I never liked them as much when they were this form factor for some reason. I like this original form factor better. Jordan versus Bird. This one says Quarterback, but that seems like it's the same font as John Elway's Quarterback, so I wonder if it's related to that. Electronic Pinball. I don't remember Sun Wars. But, yeah, are there more? Oh, no, okay, but now we get into video games, which for some people might be the real, meat of the potato of this read-through. And here, right off the bat, is the Nintendo Game Boy. This, of course, was the first Christmas that the Game Boy was out, and this is what I got for Christmas in 1989. So here they're showing some of the early titles, only one of which I had. There's Super Mario Land. But like I was saying, these games were very inexpensive compared to NES games. Super Mario Land, 1997. In fact, they're all 1977 rather, and that's the price that they all are. They were only $20. It seems like pretty quickly they jacked up the price to $30, and I wonder if that has something to do with the ROM size. And then over here we get into NES stuff. So first you have the power set, the NES power set. So with this one you got the gun and the power pad. I have the power pad actually. I've still never used it. But and then I think you got that 3-in-1 cartridge where you got Super Mario Brothers, Duck Hunt, and World Class Track Meet. Down here is the NES Advantage joystick, which was $40 back then, so not cheap. I mean, that's the cost of a game. And then we've seen ads for this numerous times in magazines as the Acclaim remote controller. I don't remember this joystick, ever seeing this triangular shaped joystick. And then number 7 down here, they're calling it Handsome Organizer. I don't know how handsome it is, but these were popular going all the way back to the Atari 2600 days, where you'd have kind of like this nice organizer for your system and your controllers and a handful of games, and then it would have like a smoke, a smoke clear plastic lid that you could put on top. And here we get into some NES games, although you just get the one screenshot, so I don't know how exciting these are really, but it's always interesting just to look at the prices. So like here's Excite Bike, which by 89 was a few years old, and so you could pick that up for only $30, whereas a lot of the newer games in here were $40 or maybe even a little bit more. Like there's Mega Man 2 for $42. It's just always interesting to me to see this, where you see like, now I feel like new games, there's just a pretty standard price, right? It's $59.99, although now I guess it's going up to $69.99. But, back then you had games for $30, $35, $40, $42. I don't know why I think that's interesting, but I do. There's Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Tecmo Bowl. It's funny, here you see Tetris, but there's no screenshot, so that's kind of interesting. What else we got here? Hoops. I remember I've mentioned that before, that Jonathan's older brother had Hoops. Marble Madness, Ninja Gaiden. Hey, there's Pebble Beach Golf, which I had. RC Pro-Am. That's interesting. They have Super Mario Brothers 2, but a screenshot for the original Super Mario Brothers. So, and then I don't know what happened here. They have World Games, but then it has Sorry Not Available on it. So I don't know what happened there. And then there is Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. And then we get into Sega Genesis. This was, of course, the first Christmas also for the Sega Genesis. So that's pretty cool. Do they list? Oh yeah, here it is. They list the price here, $189. Of course, originally Altered Beast was the pack-in game for the Genesis, so that's what they're showing. Here they've got multiple screenshots for it. I think I've actually used this page in one of my videos, although it may have not made the cut. I feel like it might have been in the launch episode. And then here are some early games. So like here's, well, they have, yeah, all the launch games are here. Super Thunderblade, Space Harrier 2, Tommy Lasorda Baseball, Thunder Force 2, and Last Battle, of course, along with Altered Beast. And even then you can see the price varied. Super Thunderblade, Space Harrier 2 were $52. Tommy Lasorda Baseball, $62. World Championship Soccer, only $37. That's kind of interesting. There's Ghouls and Ghosts, which of course was also an early release. I'm surprised that we don't see Arnold Palmer Golf here, though, because that was a very early release as well. And then down here they have the Power Base Converter, which I know for sure was out by Christmas this year, and that is $35. Oh, well, here, this answers that question. So first-party control pad for the Genesis was $25. So certainly if you got one for $15, you know, you were saving a non-trivial amount of money. And next we have Sega Master System, which actually gets quite a bit of coverage here. You can see, I mean, the Master System in '89 was still quite viable. You could get the Master System as opposed to the base system in '89 for $100. I didn't see. Oh, did we skip a page by accident? I think these pages must have stuck together. I'm sorry, because here is a cheaper NES. Yeah, we did. We skipped a page. So I'm not sure if the control deck set was still available in '89, but here is the action set. Yeah, they call it the action set. So here you got 2 controllers, the Zapper, and the Super Mario Brothers Duck Hunt combo cartridge. So that is like price competitive with the Master System, because here you got the system with 2 controllers, the light phaser, and the pack-in game where you got Safari Hunt and... Oh man, that's bad. I forgot what the other... Oh, does it say in here? Oh yeah, Hang On and Safari Hunt. There you go. So, and it's basically the same price. So, so we'll go through this page again real quick since we accidentally skipped it. I've never seen... number 3 here is Cordless Shooting is Yours with the hot new infrared video shooter. I've never seen that in my life. I mean, is that really rare? I don't know. There's the U-Force. That thing's garbage. And then there's the NES Max. I've already told that story multiple times. Much hated peripheral. And then this cartridge box looks kind of cool. Looks like a floppy disk box. What other games we got over here? Anything interesting? Blades of Steel, Bionic Commando, Blaster Master, the original Castlevania, only $35. Oh, DuckTales, $42. Dragon Warrior, $40. Boy, you didn't want to get suckered into buying Dragon Warrior for $40 in '89 just to have Nintendo turn around and give it away for free with Nintendo Power subscriptions. So anyway, back to the Sega Master System. So like I said, you know, it was they were equally priced. Maybe if you grew up and you were a Sega fanboy, you would want the Master System. Obviously, most kids wanted an NES, but still some cool games down here. Alf, Outrun, California Games, the first East, Rambo 3, Lord of the Sword, Altered Beast, the 8-bit version of Altered Beast, Vigilante, Rampage, that's a decent version of Rampage, Bomber Raid, Golvelius, that's a good game, Alex Kidd in High Tech World, Roston, Afterburner, Zillion, Shinobi, R-Type. Wow, R-Type was $57. Dang. Oh, look, hey, there's Phantasy Star, $67.50. But, you know, arguably the best game on the Master System, so what are you going to do? And then we get into Atari, because of course Atari was still hanging on. Well, this is the Atari 7800, so this was still, you know, a fairly recent release. But you can see here, you could get an Atari 7800 for only $60. So that's quite a bit cheaper. And then all of these games are also quite a bit more affordable than NES or Master System games. I think the most expensive game I'm seeing here, well, here Summer Games is $35, but you could get games like Choplifter, which is a solid game, for only $18. Food Fight, $18. Karateka, $25. Oh, they have Winter Games there too, also $35. And oh yeah, and then check this out. Choose one of these 5 titles for 1 penny more. As a great way to help build your game library, buy either the Atari 7800 system and any 2 cartridges, or any 5 cartridges, and you can order one of the 5 titles in this box for just 1 penny, so basically free. And you can get Deluxe Asteroids, Dig Dug, Galaga, Robotron 2084, or Xevious. I don't see Ninja Golf here. Must not have been out yet. And then, sorry, these pages are kind of sticking together. Here's some more Atari. So here is the Atari XE, which I've never owned an Atari XE. My understanding is that it's basically like an Atari 8-bit computer, like an Atari 800, in a video game console sort of shell, because the keyboard is a separate piece. So I'm not sure, did they come together or not? Oh yeah, it does come together. But like, if you're just going to play games, you don't need to have the keyboard. And I believe that the Atari XE is compatible with Atari 400 and Atari 800 cartridges. So that's kind of neat. And again, it's $100. So, you know, not something you probably would have wanted to have instead of an NES back then, but you know, it's also no slouch. You know, there was definitely a lot of good fun to be had if you got that. But then down here is the Atari 2600, what we call the Atari 2600 Junior now, which you could get for only $40. And it looks like if you bought it, you could get any game you wanted off of this list for only 1 penny. And then they have a bunch of other Atari 2600 games that range in price from $15 to $18. So, you know, like I said, it's like you weren't going to be the cool kid on the block if you had a 2600 back then. But, you know, if your family couldn't afford an NES, at least this was a way for you to play video games at home. So now we get into RC cars. I think this is a good spot. We're about halfway through, where I'm just going to take a quick break because I need to get something to drink, and the battery's dying on the camera. So we're just going to take a quick break, and we'll come back and do the other half of the catalog. All right, so that ended up being kind of a long, like 2-hour break. I don't know if it was coming through on the video or not, but I was starting to lose my voice. So I've got a mug of hot tea here, and I'm ready to keep going. So before the break, we had reached the end of the video game section, and we just get into other toys. So the video games was still just part of the toy section, because of course, especially back then, video games were just considered toys. And now we get into more RC cars, in this case Nyko brand, which when I think about RC cars as a kid, the 2 brands I think of outside of Radio Shack are Nyko and Tyco, which I suppose rhyme. So yeah, these are you know, like, well, at least this one here takes just normal batteries, 4 AA batteries. So these are not going to be very powerful. This one takes, I think, some kind of weird battery. So yeah, 7.2 volt battery pack. So maybe that means that it's more powerful. I don't know. I don't know anything about the Lobo 4. So at $65, it can't be too terribly fast, but. And then just more More RC cars here. Oh, there's a Porsche 911, so that's kind of cool. Oh man, you remember these remote control guys on a skateboard? Those are pretty sweet. Or remote control motorcycles. I never had one of those. I don't know how well those really work. You see the prices are starting to go up a little bit. Oh, this one's four-wheel drive though, that's why. And oh man, look at some of that stuff. Yeah, so now we're getting into some pricier stuff here, and look how big that is. So I don't know if these are any good. You know, I was never into remote control cars, higher end ones anyway, when I was a kid. You know, the number one, this Dandy Dash, is $280. So, you know, I don't know if it's like a decent quality RC car. Requires 7.2 volt NiCad pack and 10 AA batteries. So I don't know why it would need both, or if it's saying it needs one or the other. But then, I mean, look at the size of that thing. So, but you know, just because it's big, I guess, doesn't mean that it's any good. But these look pretty cool. And then over here, you've got, oh, gasoline power, boom. So, what's number one here? Gasser's Thrasher race car, specifically designed. I don't know what that means. Well, but anyway, I guess it takes gas. So that's pretty sweet. And then what I always really wanted when I was a kid is a remote control airplane, but of course I wasn't going to get something like that. So, and then remote control boats. That would have been cool because, you know, some of the houses I lived in as a kid, we had a pool. So it would have been cool to throw a remote control boat in there. But I've never actually got to use a remote control boat, so I don't know if they're any good. Oh, here's more. That's pretty neat. And then model rockets, that's another thing. I always kind of wanted to get into that, you know, maybe like when I was a teenager, but I never did. All right, now we're just getting into sort of like action-y toys, but here we get into slot cars, and then here we get into some Tyco stuff. I did have a slot car set when I was a kid, but it would have been more something along the lines of like this little one here, which was $25, and nothing like this, or I don't know. It might have been something more than that, maybe something like that, because I think the set that I had could go up the wall. But again, that would have been in like the early 80s rather than the late 80s. And then this is cool. I don't know which set it is that comes with the two F1 cars. You get a McLaren and a Ferrari there, which is interesting only because F1 is not popular in the US particularly. So interesting that a set would include those. Oh, there's a Porsche 911 again. Anything cool over here? I'm not gonna look at the model trains. But here we get into action figures. Although I guess there was only like 1.5 pages of model trains, and I think the only HO scale is the stuff over here. This kind of stuff I always thought was neat when I was a kid. I had a little bit of model train stuff, but not much. Anyway, over here we get into the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles action figures. I only ever had one. I bought a Michelangelo figure. To really be into this kind of stuff, maybe you needed to be a little bit younger than I was. Like, what was I really going to do with action figures anymore at that age? But I just, like, you know, Michelangelo was my favorite character, and so I just, you know, I had some money in my pocket one day, and so I bought that action figure, but I just had it like sitting up on a shelf or something. And here we get into some real Ghostbusters action figures. Those are pretty cool. I did used to watch that show. It never really occurred to me to want to buy any of the action figures, obviously, but it would be cool to have like the Ecto-1 or something. And then this over here, I'm not familiar with whatever this is. It says Good versus Evil. Joined forces with RoboCop and He-Man. I guess these are two separate sets, right? And they're just on the same page. But I don't ever remember seeing RoboCop action figures, and these He-Man figures don't look like the figures that we had when I had mine. But again, that would have been in like 82 or 83, not 89. A bunch of G.I. Joe stuff. I was really never more than just sort of tangentially interested in G.I. Joe. I didn't really watch the cartoon very much as a kid. I think where I lived, G.I. Joe was on at like 6 in the morning or something, and so I didn't really watch it. I did have a few G.I. Joe action figures, and I mean, for sure, I thought they were awesome. But, you know, I guess as a kid, you've only got so much money to spend on things. And so I chose to spend my money elsewhere rather than on G.I. Joe action figures. Well, like I said, I used to go over, if I was already at Toys R Us or something, I'd go look at the G.I. Joe stuff just because I thought it was cool. Some Hot Wheels. And, or no, none of this is Hot Wheels. This is all Micro Machines. That's pretty cool. Trying to think of what year. I think 87 or maybe 88 is when Micro Machines got on my radar. I don't know what year they came out exactly. I was in the 5th grade. I remember that. The first time I saw a Micro Machine. And, you know, it's funny, obviously there's nothing in these pictures to really give you any sense of scale. So, you know, none of this stuff really looks all that interesting or cool because it just looks like the same stuff that you could buy from Hot Wheels or Matchbox, you know, since the beginning of time. But of course, what was cool about this is that, you know, Micro Machines are so much smaller than Hot Wheels, and so all of these little play sets are also smaller. And I don't even really know why as a kid that's a selling point, because you'd think you'd want it bigger. But because certainly Micro Machines were not any more affordable than Hot Wheels. My recollection is that you know, they sold Micro Machines in like a 4-pack or it was a 5-pack, but it was $5, which is, you know, $1 a car is what Hot Wheels cost. So, but that being said, I still thought Micro Machines are really cool. They of course had the commercial on TV with that guy that talked really fast. So, I mean, that probably helped with their popularity. I think this is still more. See, this is kind of also to me like, you know, at some point, you know, I thought Micro Machines were cool when it was just like regular cars. And before they started coming out with all this other stuff, and then they started coming out with all these military vehicles, and somehow to me it kind of felt like Micro Machines jumped the shark a little bit, even though like it's completely logical that that they would come out with all this stuff. And at some point, so I don't know what this stuff is over here, but oh, Micro Transformers, I don't even know about that. That's pretty cool. And then we get into like Matchbox, and then yeah, some Hot Wheels stuff too. So I don't know, you know, I don't see these anymore. This is a Matchbox 30-pack, so it's like basically you're buying a bucket of cars, which, you know, I like to collect Hot Wheels, but I'm pretty picky about what I want. So like I would not want to, you know, I don't want a bucket of 30 Hot Wheels, but when I was a kid, I would have loved a bucket of 30 Hot Wheels. So it's a, you know, a great gift for a child. And then we've got some little sets here. Play sets, I should say. And then we get into some Hot Wheels, modern multi-park and gas. I used to like stuff like this, like these play sets, Hot Wheels play sets. All right, now it's time to skip ahead to the next thing. The next thing it says here is sports equipment, which I think the only reason I put a tag here is in the baseball flashback episode, I mentioned having that thing that I could throw a ball at and it would bounce back at me. And it was basically this thing. Although this one is a little fancier, this one, I guess, takes batteries or something, and somehow it can tell you if you threw a ball or a strike, which seems dumb because that's what this colored net in the middle is supposed to be for, that's the strike zone. So I don't know why you needed to tell you if you threw a ball or a strike, but in any case, the one I had didn't do that. So yeah, but this, in case somebody couldn't visualize what I was talking about. And then of course, just basketball hoops, which I guess, you know, who cares about basketball hoops? Except when I was a kid, I mean, having a basketball hoop like on the roof over your garage, or even better on a separate pole, you know, was kind of a cool thing to have. And sometime when I was in high school, I saved up some money and bought a basketball hoop that I just mounted, or I had my neighbor help me mount it on the roof. Just because, you know, no matter what is going on, you know, like if you don't have any friends that are available to hang out that day or something, as long as it's not raining or whatever outside, you can always go home, or you can always go outside rather in the driveway and just shoot some hoops by yourself. Oh man, you remember these? I I never had one of these, but this is a common thing to see over at a friend's house or something. These dirty laundry basketball baskets to hang on the back of your bedroom door. What do we got next here? Oh yeah, skateboard. So, I don't know, I guess I kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier when I was talking about the sleeping bags or something, about sort of like poser skate culture. And that certainly goes back a few years before 89, but, you know, along with, you know, skater culture and the rise of guys like Steve Caballero and Tony Hawk, and then, you know, skating on like Powell Peralta decks and whatnot, you know, there were kids like me who, you know, maybe couldn't afford that stuff, but also weren't really into it enough to justify the cost. You would have companies like Nash, or here you have Veriflex, who, you know, would make these sort of lower end skateboards that, it's funny, like when we were kids, we would look at those and think, oh, that looks pretty cool. But then if somebody who was like actually a skater saw that, they would be like, oh, you poser. So, because plus we would want to cover the bottoms of these with stickers anyway, but like, you know, kids that, like I said, were either actual skaters or were posers with money would be like, oh, is that a Nash or a Veriflex? And then like make fun of you or whatever. But I just thought it was cool to see these in here, because plus this is like the older style board where you still had like a nose and a tail, whereas now you don't have that anymore, which I guess makes more sense, really. You know, is there anything cool on the next page? Snow stuff, which doesn't apply to me. And then I marked this page off just because, like, this is like another thing where I feel like, you know, I mean, I never had a swing set or even really wanted one, but it was a common thing to see over at like another kid's house. Like you go, especially if the kid had, you know, maybe a couple of brothers and sisters, so that for the parents it made financial sense to just buy a swing set. And I mean, I don't know, do they even make swing sets anymore? I mean, probably they do, I guess, but like I can't remember the last time I saw something like this in somebody's yard. Probably now people think it's dangerous. And I mean, they're not cheap. I mean, that the cheapest ones here are like $175, which is like $350 now, based on the exchange rate, as I said. Or, you know, here's a really fancy one for $375. I don't even know what $375. What is that? $750? That's a lot, man. And then we'll skip ahead to the next thing, Power Wheels. So I only ever knew one kid who had, and it was a girl, who she had a Power Wheel. I mean, a Power Wheels car. I don't even remember what kind of car it was. Like, I don't think it was a Barbie car or anything, but I don't even care. But like, I always wanted one of these when I was a kid. It's weird. I feel like now kids and teenagers today don't seem like they're really obsessed with driving. And I've had like my friend, you know, he's got like teenage boys at home, and he says the same thing. He says they don't care about getting a driver's license. They don't care about cars. And to me, like, that's crazy. And I don't know if it was just me. I don't think it was. I feel like that's the way it was when I was a kid. Like, we were obsessed with driving and couldn't wait until we could drive. Like, my dad sometimes would let me sit on his lap and steer if we were in like a resident. I mean, and he probably had like his fingers on the steering wheel anyway, but being able to drive something like a little Power Wheels thing just to feel like you're driving, you know, or going down to a Malibu Grand Prix, if you had that wherever you lived, like a go-kart track or something like that. Or, you know, I tried to make this point a couple of times when I've talked about Hard Drivin', the arcade game, is it at least approximated some of the experience of driving a real car, which, when, like I said, when I was a kid, that was like the ultimate, is to get to drive a car. And so I think that was the real allure of Power Wheels. And I don't know how much of a thing something like this really is anymore, because maybe these days kids don't care about driving. And then over here, so I mean, like Power Wheels, you can see here, $150 for like these first two here. And then I guess these are some lower end models or something. Although, oh, well, of course the Porsche has to cost more. That one's $190, and then the Mercedes is $170. But so just to give you an idea of like the price range of Power Wheels. And then you come over here, and now this is a gas-powered go-kart, and that's $700 for this one. And then 2, 3, and 4 here take your pick for $900. But at the same time, if you had something like this IndyCar looking thing here, gas powered when you were a kid, I mean, that'd be pretty awesome. So, but you know, if you had something like that, your parents had to have some money. Then I marked off the bike page. I'm not really 100% sure what it is I wanted to look at here. I mean, here's tricycles. I mean, a lot of us had tricycles when we were kids, but I mean, other than that, there's something on the next page here. Oh, well, yeah, here you go. We got some Huffies. So, you know, it's funny. It's the exact same stuff that I just said about skateboards. You can say the exact same thing about BMX bikes. Like if you were a kid who was like really into actually trying to do like freestyle, cycling or whatever you want to call it, or, you know, you had parents who had some extra money to blow, then, you know, maybe you would get to have a bike like a GT or a Mongoose or a PK Ripper or something like that. But for the rest of us, we had things like what you see here, Huffies or Murray's or a Roadmaster. I don't recall this Kent brand, but like when I was a kid at one point, my first bike was a Murray. I don't even know what Murray's they have here. Is it just the one? I guess maybe. My first bike was a Murray, but something that looked more like this. Like it had that BMX look, but didn't have pegs, didn't have a rotor, but like it had the pad on the top tube and the pad on the handlebars. And then later when I got, actually probably this year, 89, because I was getting bigger and I kind of outgrew this bike, I think it was called a Murray Street Machine, if I'm remembering the name correctly. But it's funny because I think unlike, like I said, if you were skating around on a Veriflex, you might kind of get made fun of. But I mean, only because like you didn't need to have a skateboard at all, right? But like pretty much any, almost any kid had a bike, right? Like unless, if your parents were really in a bad way. I mean, for a kid, having a bike was kind of just like everybody had a bike seemingly. And most of us had like Murray's or Huffies, or like even maybe you had like an old Schwinn that belonged to one of your parents. And so like nobody was really going to make fun of you too much for riding one of those. Although I wonder with something like this is getting maybe into a little bit too much of like poser territory. I don't know. Because you can see like that one has pegs and has a rotor. But I bet that was probably a pretty sweet bike to ride. Oh, and here's some bigger bikes. So yeah, like I don't see a Street Machine here, but something like that where it looked a little bit more like a mountain bike and just had a slightly bigger frame. And then that's going to kind of close out toys, if you even want to consider the last of the stuff we've been looking at as toys. We're kind of getting onto the home stretch here. There's a bunch of stuff in here that we're skipping. The next one I marked off was kitchen appliances, just because I saw some sort of like blast from the past kind of stuff in here. Like this Jetstream oven. This is the kind of thing like I just remember seeing that. I don't even know if it was a commercial I saw on TV or like maybe in the Sunday ads or something. But I think this was supposed to be like, it's an electric like countertop. It says roast, broil, grill, bake, and air fry. So it's funny because like air fryers are all of a sudden like a thing again. But here you could buy an air fryer back in the 80s. Or you could come over here and just buy a legit deep fryer. I don't know if there was something else in here I wanted to show. I mean, it's the same appliances we use now, right? They just like maybe look a little bit different. So, oh yeah, this gets us to the next thing anyway. So this is just sort of like rando gifts. And I just immediately noticed that, like the plasma ball. Like I remember just, those things seemed so cool in like the late 80s. I think a lot of like yuppies would have something like that as like a piece of their home decor. I remember my science teacher had one when I was in 8th grade. We had one in the class. And, but I also remember like stuff like this, like you'd get the, this is like a glass or plastic box where it's got water and oil in it, and one of them has coloring. And so this just kind of rocks back and forth and makes waves. But You know, it was just, this was the kind of thing that somebody would buy and put like on a shelf in their office as just sort of like a decoration or something. But you see how much the plasma ball is. So, I mean, those things weren't cheap, but like, whatever happened to them? Like, I can't remember the last time I saw a plasma ball for sale anywhere. And then this page I just marked off just because I noticed the dustbuster in here. And I don't know why I got a kick out of that. I remember, like, it seemed like every household had a dustbuster. My grandma had one. Just a, you know, super, super low power little handheld vacuum. And yeah, I don't know. Just like I said, blast from the past. We get into kind of some tools. You know, I was excited when I got this catalog. I was like, oh, I'll check out all the tools. But, you know, the funny thing about tools is tools don't really change all that much. Like hand tools, I mean, this looks literally the exact same as the Craftsman tools that I can go buy at Ace Hardware now. Just because, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Like, I mean, even just the styling of like the screwdriver handles look exactly the same. But what looked different, if I can find them real fast, yeah, are like the cordless drills. Like I guess, I mean, I'm not well versed on the history of cordless drills, but certainly from the looks of it, this seems like we must have been in sort of like the infancy of that. Like, you know, you can even see that they don't have keyless chucks, which I can't remember ever seeing a cordless drill that uses a keyed chuck. I mean, really, drills in general don't use keyed chucks anymore, but I don't know, I just thought that was kind of interesting to check out. Yeah, and the rest of this, like, hey, garage door opener. I'm actually in the market for a new garage door opener now. Here are some cameras. Yeah, you guys remember 110 millimeter cameras? You don't ever see those around anymore. You remember the Le Click? I think I've talked about those before, but I mean, I had a 110 camera. One time I went out taking pictures with Stuart, and by that time I had a 35 millimeter camera, but he still had a 110. But you know, you remember like they had like these nicer cameras like this that were kind of just like point and shoot cameras, which we still have today as point and click digital cameras. But you know, these would be cool because, like, you know, you'd put the film in and it would like auto advance the film for you. Like that was like a big deal when cameras could do that, because like even if you buy, like back then, if you were to buy like a really nice 35 millimeter SLR, there was a separate attachment you had to buy if you wanted it to auto advance the film until much later. And even then, I think a lot of it was like consumer grade cameras. But these are the kind of things, like now you trip over these at places like Goodwill because you know, a lot of people still want to shoot 35 millimeter, but then they want like pro grade or prosumer at least grade SLRs from back in the day, like a Canon AE1 or something. So like nobody wants something like this. Oh, speaking of, I mean, stuff like this, I guess. Like, I mean, this is probably not a camera that a professional would use, but you know, this is like a fully manual SLR. So if you were like a photography enthusiast like I am, you know, like the cameras I have are, you know, they're nice cameras that are like fully featured, but they're not the kind of camera that a professional photographer would use. Here's a bunch of more lenses. What is this, scanners? Oh yeah, police scanners. Phones. So this is funny. This is another thing where, like, you know, it's just kind of a bygone era, right? Like how many people even have a home phone anymore? I don't. And, you know, but like when I worked at Radio Shack, that was probably one of the biggest things we sold, man, is like phones and phone accessories. I mean, people would come in there, they just needed a longer phone cord or a phone splitter, new batteries for their cordless phones, or like one of these little slimline phones for a spare bedroom or something. And, you know, that's of course all gone now. This see-through phone was, you know, very iconic, I would say, in the 80s, as was the Garfield phone. Here's an Alf telephone. That's kind of cool. And yeah, here's cordless phones. And just the one that I remember, my grandma had this exact phone, this cordless AT&T phone with the rubber buttons on it. And it actually had the telescoping antenna. So you'd pick the phone up off the cradle and pull out the antenna and make your phone call. And if you'd walk around the house, and if you went into the wrong room, it would get all staticky. And it's funny because in pretty much every way, what we have now is better. And so it's funny how we get nostalgic for things like this, right? I feel the same way. Like there's never snow on TV anymore. Like you either have a picture or you don't have a picture. And I mean, that sucks when you don't have a picture, because at least back then, if you had kind of a picture, you could still kind of watch the game or whatever. All right, skipping ahead. The next section says computers. What do we have here? The Commodore 64C. So I'm no expert when it comes to Commodore 64s. So I am not someone that can really speak very intelligently about the difference between a Commodore 64 and a Commodore 64C. But it's still just cool to see it here. The styling at least looks a lot closer to an Amiga. And it's only $160, which is sure pretty cheap. Now, for that price, you don't get a disk drive or anything like that. So this would still just take cartridges, and perhaps still had an input and an output for a cassette tape player. I don't know that for sure or not, but that's how the original Commodore 64 was. Here you can get a Magnavox RGB/composite color monitor for $300. So that costs twice as much as the system itself. And a few years ago, somebody gave me a Commodore 64, and they offered me a Magnavox monitor that may very well have been this monitor, and I didn't take it. And so I think he probably sent it to e-waste, and I kind of regret that. I should have at least tried to rehome it. And I was just curious how much. The disk drive was another $200. So the thing is, if you want the complete setup, that's 160, 460, 660, and that doesn't include a printer. If you wanted a printer, that's $760, $820 to buy everything on the page. So I don't know. Is that a good deal? I kind of don't think so, only because if you look on the next page, you have the Amiga 500, and it says new. I don't know what year the Amiga 500 did. It really come out in '89? That feels kind of late, but I really don't know. You could get an Amiga for $600, and that had a floppy drive built in. So, and it's so much more powerful a computer that it seems like you'd be better off buying that. Now, of course, that again doesn't include the monitor. And here, that's a fairly famous monitor, the Commodore 1084 monitor. And specifically, this is the 1084S, which means that it has stereo sound. It's got a speaker on each side. If you got a normal 1084, it only had a speaker on one side, so you only got mono audio. And that monitor is another $400. But ideally, you would want to have a monitor like that so that you could be playing, not just playing, but using your Amiga 500, and let's be honest, playing games in RGB. But I would rather buy just the computer and have to use composite video for a while, although that even required the purchase of a separate little unit. But I'd rather do that than buy Commodore 64. And they don't show any screenshots, but they do list off a few games in here. FA-18 Interceptor, Battle Chess, Test Drive the Duel, or Test Drive 2 the Duel rather. Jack Nicklaus Golf. That's probably Jack Nicklaus's 18 greatest holes of major championship golf, which is actually a good game. Batman, which I believe is that the Batman that was a pack-in game for the system in Europe for a while, or at least in England. And then Double Dragon, and the prices range from about $33 up to $42. So in line with other current generation video games. And oh man, a Bondwell, wow. So we got a couple of laptops here, and again, I don't know a whole lot about laptops of this ilk. That they have kind of this weird screen on them, like scrunched down LCD screen. When I was like into computers as a teenager, I would have thought these were like really cool, and I want one of those. But really, if I had had something like that, I wouldn't have been happy with it, because I would have wanted to have like a normal screen. But certainly if you were like a businessman or something who was already maybe using a computer in your office, it would totally make sense to have something like this. And really the price is not bad at all for a laptop computer in the late 80s. To get one for $1,100. Now, of course, you don't get a hard drive for that price. It just has the floppy drive, and it doesn't say anything about what kind of processor it has. I'm guessing an 8088 or an 8086. I assume these are DOS compatible, but I don't even know that. They don't say. And just some accessories. We don't need to look at that. But here are a bunch of computer games. And there's a couple in here that, I didn't realize that they were computer games because I think of them as NES games like Kings of the Beach there. But, you see we've got some heavy hitters from Sierra here. Police Quest 2, Space Quest 3. There's a SSI, what is that, Pool of Radiance, I think. Gold Box AD&D game. What is that, Hillsfar? It's another SSI AD&D game. Bad Dudes. I don't really recommend that particularly. And oh yeah, and there you go. Jack Nicklaus's 18 Greatest Holes of Major Championship Golf, which also came out on the TurboGrafx 16 and PC engine. And then just some productivity software. We don't need to look at that. We can skip the furniture section, I think. Radios. I don't know why I thought it'd be cool to look at radios. I guess just because I like radios. Like they have these Space Maker radios. Again, I never had one, or we didn't have one of these in my house, but sometimes you'd go over to a kid's house and like his mom would have one of these, mounted under the cabinet in the kitchen. And clock radios. Is that a? Oh yeah. See, that's a Sound Design Cube, which kind of looks like a design ripoff of a Sony Dream Machine. Which, when I was a kid at least, Sony Dream Machine was like one of the cool radios to have, or cool clock radios to have. And you notice I don't see any flip clocks in here, because by this time that would have been like older technology. Over here we get into Walkman, which that was, around this time, that would have been sort of a coveted item to have if you could manage to get your hands on a Walkman. And, you can see that there's quite a big spread as far as the price goes. Here you can get number 7 stereo cassette player with volume control, $10.56. Or you could pay up to, looks like the highest one here is $112 for this Sharp. And part of the reason that one is more expensive is auto reverse. That one's got it. That one's got it. That one's got it. I would be surprised if these didn't have it. They don't say they have. Well, that one's recording. I guess that's why. So for anybody that doesn't know, auto reverse just means that when the tape gets to the end of one side, you don't have to take it out and turn it around and put it back in. But, that was kind of a premium feature back then. So you can see the cheapest one you can get here that has auto reverse is this one for $41. And it's like a total no-name. I don't even know, is LXI the name brand? I've never even heard of that. But if you wanted something that was at least name brand, and in my recollection, like a Sharp was not, like when I think of Sharp, I think of TVs. I don't think that as a kid I would have been like, oh, I really want to get a Sharp Walkman. Like you wanted like a Sony, or they don't have any in here, I don't think, but like an Iowa, maybe even a Panasonic. But I don't know, those are just kind of cool to look at anyway. And then we get into boom boxes. And, that was my first radio, actually, was a boombox. They don't have anything in here that really looks like what I had. Because, what I had was maybe sort of the form factor of this, but mine did not have the dual decks like this one does. And I don't even remember what brand mine. I want to say it was something cheap, like a GTX, or actually maybe it was a General Electric. Now that I think about it, I'm not sure, but my mom had something more like maybe like this one, although I think she had a Sony. But like a nicer 2-deck system with like an EQ, detachable speakers. And it's funny, when I was a kid, I didn't know any better. Like, I thought that was like high-end audio. Like, I thought my mom's stereo was like the bee's knees, because I didn't know anything about like actual hi-fi, like getting a nice Pioneer, some like HPM 100 speakers, or, getting like a Marantz receiver. Like, I didn't know anything about that. So to me, like, when I saw like a really nice high-end shelf system like this, I thought that was like the pinnacle of home audio. And so like I was always like very like envious of my mom's system. But I was happy with what I had as well. Yeah, here's more. You can see some of these, so like everything on this page I think is cassette only, but here we've got some that take CDs, and those are expectedly significantly more expensive. Because like this one, this Panasonic, which seems to be a pretty nice system, is $100, or here's a Sony, which has auto reverse in the tape decks, is only $120. But then as soon as you get into anything that takes a CD, you're well over $200, with the exception, I guess, of this Magnavox down here for $200 even. But I hadn't even seen probably anything like this in 1989, unless it was because I walked into like a Sears and looked in the electronics section. And so this kind of, even when I'm talking about it, even like stuff like this, like I didn't really know anybody who had stuff like this. So like I said, to me, just having a shelf system with detachable speakers would have been cool. One other thing interesting to point out, if you look at like this system or this system, is these are a little bit pricier because they include a CD player, but you're also still at kind of the tail end of the vinyl era. So like all 4 of these systems still have turntables up top, and even this boombox has, and it doesn't have a CD player, but even it has a turntable up top. So just sort of an interesting thing to point out. But like these are not, from what I can tell, like good brands. Like Sound Design was not a good brand. This is this LXI system, I guess. So, but I'm sure this being Sears, yeah. So here you get like a Sony and a Pioneer. So here you're going to pay $600 for a Sony system, and then you don't even get a CD player unless you pay $200 more. So then an $800 system, and then you're getting a CD player. And even then, that's probably, it's a stereo you're buying at Sears. So it's not like it's some kind of super high-end thing. And then here is a Pioneer that is sort of similar quality, I would say, except that this one has the CD player in it, and so that's why it costs a little bit more. That's probably enough of looking at stereos. The last thing that I had marked here was TVs. And so something, I mentioned one time that, Jonathan's dad had one of those big screen TVs with the plastic screen that sort of had those weird angle things in it. So it would make like a zipper noise if you ran your fingernail on it, which you shouldn't do. And so it was something, sort of similar to this. It's funny how in the catalog, because this is done, this is like a mock-up, right? It makes it seem like, wow, that picture looks really good. But if you actually went and saw it in the store, it wouldn't look nearly that good. And, with TVs like this, you were really sacrificing picture quality for picture size. So, but I guess, like Jonathan's dad was like a big sports fan. And so maybe if you're just watching football or something, having it on a big screen, I guess, is more important than having it on a nice quality CRT. And then we still have some, of the sort of traditional wooden console TVs. In fact, this one still sort of has that 70s, early 80s styling to it. In this case, it's a Zenith. And then you get some of these that are a little bit newer they look a little bit more modern in their styling. And they have like that swivel base, which depending on someone's living room setup, could be nice to have. Here are a bunch more that fall into that category of having the classic styling, especially like that. Like that one looks pretty cool. There's part of me that would love to have a TV like this if I had room for it down here in the basement. Just to have like an NES hooked up to maybe an Atari 2600. I just don't have the room for something like that. So I don't even bother keeping an eye out on like Craigslist. I mean, at the end of the day, I would rather have an arcade machine down here and not get to have like a cool vintage TV. So it's an okay trade-off. And then here are our little portable TVs. And, it's weird. For a long time, I wondered, like, what the heck ever happened to portable TVs? Because it seems like after the switch over to digital, you didn't really see... I mean, you could buy portable TVs that were set up to receive digital, but they were really never that popular. And it's like, for a long time, I think, there was sort of this gap in the market, if you want to call it that. And I think part of it is just because... I don't think these would be very good at receiving a proper signal, digital signal. But now, of course, with tablets and smartphones, you don't really need a portable TV anymore. Like I have YouTube TV, so I can watch TV on my phone. So what do I need a portable TV for at this point? And then over here you see stuff like, this is a 13-inch. Oh, this is kind of cool though. 13-inch TV doubles as a monitor with 80 character, 16 color capacity. I mean, really, it's just a TV with a composite video input, I think. I don't know. It says RGB mode. I'd be curious to see what the input looks like on that. Oh yeah, it says it accepts RGB, so I wonder if that's like digital RGB. But anyway, my point in pointing these out was just to say this is like that's more like the size TV that you would maybe see in a bedroom or something, although not something so fancy and so expensive that it has that kind of input. I'm surprised there aren't more like smaller televisions in here, because when I was a kid, that was just common. You'd have something like a 13-inch TV in a bedroom or something. Here's just furniture. You can even buy VHS tapes out of the Sears catalog. Although, you could still order out of. That's an important point. I skipped over the part where you could order stuff. This was not just some kind of thing where you could see what was available in the store. You could still order things directly out of this catalog. I don't know what year Sears phased out the Sears catalog, but I don't know. It's interesting to look at this just to see the kind of movies that were out and for sale in the late 80s. A lot of iconic films here, along with a bunch of classics, then classics, I mean. But yeah, I'm not going to go through all of the movies. But I don't know if there was anything else interesting. I don't have any more little bookmarks, so we may very well be at the end of the road. Although I kind of wanted to point out some of this stuff was just kind of interesting. If you guys remember, this is the kind of stuff you might get for Christmas as a stocking stuffer. Like here's a VHS tape all about like RC cars, some kind of BMX biking, I think. Psycho Skate. You guys remember Dorf on Golf, Football Follies, stuff like that was really common, I think, as like a Christmas present. Oh, VCRs. Well, I don't really feel like checking out the VCRs, to be honest. These are like camcorder accessories, which I think is funny. They're putting the accessories before the camcorders. What's that? Wow, I've never seen that before. Video printer gives quality snapshots off of TV, camcorder, and more. So I don't know how cool that would be. I mean, is that Is it just printing a still from like a home movie? Because that wouldn't look very good. Easy load Kodak film and paper, or I don't know if this was the kind of thing where it was like a special camera that you bought. I don't know anything about this, but it looks interesting. This seems like the kind of thing that like Techmoan or V Westlife would make a video about, but it's well outside of my wheelhouse. And then last here you have some camcorders. There's a Sony, that's an 8mm, and there's a full size. So that one takes VHS tapes. That's 8mm, and I don't know what says full size, so I guess that means it takes VHS tapes. And then on the back here is one more. Man, that was long. My voice is going to be gone for a while. That is the 1989 Sears Wishbook. So that was pretty cool. So that's going to do it for this year's CGQ Christmas special. I just want to once again give a huge thanks to Jason in Cedar Rapids, Michael in Ottawa, Ruben and Kylie in Redondo Beach, and to Shane for helping me out with the Mega Christmas 89 cartridge. I hope all of you guys have a safe and happy holiday season, and I will see you on the next upload. So I'm still working. I mentioned in the Thanksgiving episode I was working on like a big video. I'm still working on it. These things take a long time. That will probably be the next upload though on the main channel. I'm not planning on doing any magazine read-throughs or anything until that is over. But on this channel, who knows? So Merry Christmas, everybody, and thanks to anybody that's actually still watching after probably 3 hours. And I will see you next time.